is a presentation of Sertoba Media and Comey Media, Incorporated.
Spring football is back, along with the fact that the Brahmas may have reestablished an actual identity for themselves. And we got some NFL news on this newest edition of Total Football Talk. Welcome back to Total Football Talk, your source for hard-hitting football news. Got a couple guests today with me as well. I am your host, Drew Willingham, waiting for my man Cole Johnson to come on back now, but he'll be back here in a couple weeks as we talked about last week. Introducing first, got to bring it in. You all know that I'm a fan of the Commanders, but when it comes to other teams of the NFC East, we've got other teams from that division here today in the source of fans and people who cover their content as well. Give it up first for the man who you've seen in the commercials here for the Eagles Elite Podcast. Give it up for Cool McCain. Welcome back, brother.
What's going on, man?
I know there's a couple things I'm going to bring up today, and I'm going to bring them up on purpose just to get your reaction when it comes to things based on the Philadelphia Eagles that we have seen over the course of the past month or so that you and I haven't had a chance to really talk about. You got a new running back in the city and some other additions and subtractions as well. But along with spring football that we have to talk about today, those things are on your plate, sir. So get ready. They're coming up here real soon. But then again, we also have another guest today who is also from the same division when it comes to fanhood, and that being from the team that is led by who Cole likes to say, Gerald Jones. Give it up from the Legacy Maker Sports Network, my man, Robb Johnson. Welcome back, brother.
NFC East champions.
And there's some other things I'm going to bring up today.
They suck.
You just said.
They suck. They suck. They suck. They really suck. But they're NFC East champions. They don't know how to manage their money because a restaurant owner manages their money, but they suck. But they're NFC East champions.
I'm guessing that you've already taken a look at that section of the slate because you already know what question is coming up here in a little bit. But guys, based
not much
on
I can say, Drew. All I can really say is we choked.
Yeah, but I mean,
coaching, my friend. Coaching, my friend.
Would you rather have choked
about coaching?
Coaching, my friend.
Which way would you have rather have choked, like you did in the Super Bowl the year before, or the early exit in the playoffs this past season? Which way?
Well, we didn't choke in the Super Bowl, sir. So let's not lie. Let's not tell the people falsehoods.
No.
We didn't choke in the Super Bowl.
The Eagles didn't choke in the Super Bowl. The Eagles got tripped by a zebra.
Thank you.
There it is.
Coming from a fan of another team, and that's all you want to try to do is make me out to be the bad guy for saying that, Drew. So now there's someone else from another team who doesn't even like me that can acknowledge that, but you can't.
Listen, I acknowledge the Philadelphia Eagles. I am an all-time Donovan McNabb fan. I want that man to go to the Hall of Fame. I love Terrell Lawrence. I love Brian Dawkins. Yes, I am a Cowboys fan, but I acknowledge that the 2000s Eagles are one of the greatest teams that ever won a Super Bowl. There should be a 30 for 30.
I'd agree with that.
They really should.
Yes, that's right.
It's all thanks to the Red Walrus. That's why we never won, because the Red Walrus choked everything away.
Oh, God.
But then when you got the referees on his side, now he's able to,
I'll give you
win.
I'll give you that.
I purposely did that just to see what both of y'all would say when it comes to the Zebras interfering with that Super Bowl.
And that's called
game.
Marketing 101 students at college right now who are paying $25,000 a day for college.
Yeah, that's pretty much what it costs now. That's ridiculous. But guys, we got a bunch of stuff to get to before we get back to NFL action, because you thought that was some fire, guys. We got plenty more ahead for you. Let's go ahead and take this into the open and drive and see what happened this past weekend.
All right, let's go. We got trips, right? At 42, 989. On two. Ready? Great.
And here with the open and drive, starting out with a game that we had from this past weekend, we had a team that pretty much dominated that game that, they pretty much had the line for doing so going into this. And when you look at the Birmingham Stallions and the Arlington Renegades, 27-14 contest from the Birmingham Stallions. Yeah, Matt Corral coming in there, throwing for 201 passing yards, a touchdown, an interception. Deon Kane getting 3 receptions, 66 yards, and a touchdown. Part of that helped the Birmingham Stallions there. CJ Marable had 18 carries, 67 yards, and a touchdown. The Stallions defense, 2 sacks and an interception to contribute towards that as well. The Arlington Renegades, previously in the XFL championship game and winning it, Luis Perez, 214 passing yards and a touchdown along with the interception. And Isaiah Winstead contributed with that, 2 receptions, 60 yards and a touchdown, along with the fact that we had a former punter from the Oakland Raiders back then, Marquette King, with a 62-yard punt. I don't think I've ever gotten hyped about somebody with a punt before, but he had a 62-yard punt, and I'm getting hyped about it this morning on Total Football Talk. With all that being said, Rob, I already know you're shaking your head. What's on your mind, sir?
Okay, first of all, let me say a few things. First of all, the UFL, I thought sucked last year, okay? I thought the XFL brand by itself. Listen, remember when the NFL merged, the AFL and NFL, they merged and everything like that? They took, I feel like it was a situation where they should have waited longer to merge. I love the XFL by itself because something, and I know people who really don't understand football like we do. For me, the XFL felt fun. It felt like a college atmosphere, but it was still pros. The UFL felt more corporate. It felt like, oh, we just got to be out here and do this. And, a lot of times, when Birmingham was playing, they were playing in one stadium. They weren't playing actually at home or, the XFL had a real feel to it. Let me also say this about this game. Birmingham is a professional football team playing in the UFL. I mean, think about it, guys. I mean, look at this. You got Marquette King. You got Matt Corral, who isn't great, but he's still a really decent quarterback, right? Marquette King. Why is he not in the NFL? Oh, that's right. He was blacklisted by the NFL because he was having too much fun. John Gruden rears his ugly head once again. He still has a lot of pull in the NFL, just like that clown. I'm not going to call him a clown because I got called a clown this week and I almost went off. Just like that individual, Sean Payton in Denver, has too big of an ego. And, when I look at this game specifically, I look at everything that happened. I'm not surprised that Birmingham dominated. They're the best team in this league. They're going to win the whole thing. If you look at it, Arlington struggled most of the year last year and got hot. Really, when you look at it, the DC Defenders should have been the champions of the league last year. But, of course, we'll get to them in a second. They lost a lot. They don't have the same players. Guys, this is basically NFL Europe and North America now. And why the living hell they put this on the same weekend as the NCAA championships instead of waiting 2 more weeks when the NCAAs were over. And you're competing against baseball with right now, baseball is as hot as it's been in about 10, 15 years. With Shohei, with De La Cruz, with everything going on, the Yankees are winning. They actually beat the Astros. Can we get a hand clap, everybody? They finally beat the Astros. Yeah, so total fail by the UFL. They should have kept it to the XFL, but hey, congratulations to the Birmingham Stallions and Marquette King, who's blacklisted from the NFL. Give this man a job, Jerry Jones. And wait a minute, he's not doing that.
Rob already coming in with the fire this morning. The one thing I will add to that is that on top of that, you're also competing with WrestleMania this Saturday when you have an 8 o'clock game this Saturday night.
Why do they have the game at 8 o'clock? Drew, you had them. I saw that. 8 o'clock on a Saturday night? What are you doing? against WrestleMania in Philly. They'd already brought out Meek Mills with his screaming self as it is. Now they got Lil Wayne premiering a video.
Don't you?
I mean, you got one hip hop star and a guy and another guy. Well, listen,
Diddy's boy toy.
Bro, listen, man. I like listening to Will Smith. I'm sorry. I prefer listening to Philly. When it comes to Philly music, I love Will Smith because it's mellow, not a lot of cursing. And Eve is one of the best Philly rappers of all time, along with Beanie Siegel and Freeway, not Meek Mill. Meek Mill got destroyed by Game in 2016-17 with Pest Control, but that's another story for another day.
Pest Control.
Ooh.
But
go back and listen to this song. It's a lot of curse words though, so don't let your kids listen to it.
based on what he just said, how are you feeling, Cool, when it comes to this game right here?
Philly.
I mean, you threw a lot of fire out there, but when it comes to this Birmingham and Arlington Renegades game, what are you thinking when it comes to past results in this first week?
As Rob said, man, it's not a surprise, right? You look down the rosters and Birmingham seems to be that team, right? At least early on. You know, sometimes you can have development throughout the season. You can have injuries, things of that nature, but everything staying the same. It's going to be hard to beat Birmingham. But I want to expand on what Rob said. I bring two people for the XFL no longer being in business, and that is Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson and Danny Garcia. Because had you had the fortitude to say, we're going to ride this out another year or two, the USFL would have came begging to you to take the teams and keep it the XFL. We would have had more fun. We would have had more excitement. I actually said when the USFL and the XFL came back that it should all end up being the XFL and the USFL division and then whatever the XFL wants to name the other division. But they went too early. They had the bad year. I guess The Rock knew he was going back to TKO before everybody else did, so he wanted to go ahead and get things moving and get things started. But he took away one of the things that made the XFL so great was The Rock was at games with his 54th man jersey on. If you smell what the XFL is cooking, all those things are not there now. Now we've got like a USFL with a little twing of XFL.
Hey,
it's just not the same.
Can I add something to you real quick? You know, it's funny. It's funny you brought up the whole Rock situation with the TKO. You know what's funny, guys? I remember there was a time they said the NFL talked to The Rock, and I knew as soon as they said that, they brought him into their little NFL room. In a dark room. They said, "Hey, Rock, we know you got a nice brand here, buddy. What we're gonna do is, because you know all these gatekeepers are connected anyway. We want you to bring these leagues together. And if you do that, guess what, buddy? We'll give you ownership of everything. Ownership of everything. I mean, I'm not saying The Rock sold out because he's one of my favorite stars of all time. I'm just saying this a little bit. It's not that much of a coincidence that the man now has ownership of everything. He's on TV. He's getting all this money, and he had to basically step back and take this league from exciting to corporate. Because I'm not saying the NFL was scared of the XFL, but guys, let me ask you this. Isn't it kind of funny if you look back from 2000 when they had the XFL to this past season, how many rules they've adopted from that league? It's not a coincidence.
Yep.
It's not a coincidence. So yes, guys, there are still gatekeepers. There are still things that happen in this world, especially when it comes to entertainment, that it connects. And if you can't see the connection, then you gotta see the connection. Ooh.
Take off your rose-colored glasses if you can't.
Exactly.
Well, to kind of add to what both of y'all were saying, is something that Cool kind of piggybacked on from you that I guess I'm going to piggyback on as well. When it comes to kind of merging with the USFL a little bit too soon, I think we got to keep in mind that the XFL lost $60 million last year.
Every business uses money its first year. If you don't expect to lose money your first year, then you shouldn't go into a business venture.
That's a lot of money to lose in your first year. I mean, and you only have a 10-week season. If you were as long as the XFL, if it was as big as the NFL as far as the schedule and the playoffs, I'd give you that. But you have a 10-week season, including the playoffs. Okay, so if you lose $60 million in 2.5 months, you kind of have to regroup a little bit. That's all I'm going to say when it comes to that. But when it comes to this Birmingham Stallions game, I agree with both of you as well. As we kind of expected this to happen because with the merger coming, we kind of saw Birmingham as definitely the stronger team of the 4 teams in the USFL conference. And then with what they displayed this past weekend, it definitely wasn't any surprise. They're still the favorite to win it all this year. And we only got 9 more weeks of this whole thing. So I think in the next 9 weeks, we could see potentially this team definitely dominate the entirety of the USFL, because outside of the entirety of this league, the other 7 teams, this was the only team this past weekend to have over 300 total yards on offense. Other than that, it was a lackluster offensive production by all 5 teams. I mean, by all of the other teams in the XFL and USFL divisions. So
now, if you brought back that, if the Houston Rednecks had their same roster before the pandemic shut everything down to PJ Walker and that crew, I would have loved to have seen that team against this Birmingham team. But Birmingham just is they're the creme de la creme of this league. I mean, if you look at it, they're going to continue to get the best players, and they're going to win it this year. They might win it next year. Hell, they might win it 4 straight years because they get all the talent. So the XFL is going to, the UFL is going to have to make sure that they disperse the talent a little more. But there's some really talented players in this league. Don't get it twisted. But that's what I said. It's now the minor leagues of the NFL. Because as you looked at the Jake Bates, who we'll talk about in a second, he's not getting calls from NFL teams. So there's there's really no loyalty in this league. So you could be there today, you get a call tomorrow, you're gone. So this is what this is now.
And we'll definitely touch up on Jake Bates here in a minute. Before we do that, we got another Philly fan in the house. Dante Hill says, "What's good, guys?" What's up, Dante? Appreciate you tuning in this morning to the newest edition of Total Football Talk. And he says, "I hear what you're saying. However, is the XFL exciting business model? It's sustainable. Remember the first XFL." Well, yeah, because they had just went back a couple minutes ago, and Rob was talking about what happened in 2000 with the XFL. So
yeah, but 2020, if pandemic hadn't happened, that league. Let me tell you, listen, the 2020 XFL before it got shut down, man, we were headed towards one exciting finish to the season, and we lost that. So just coming off the pandemic, I mean, of course it's going to lose money. There are businesses all around this country who are losing money. There are billionaires right now who are struggling. I know people don't want to hear that, but yes, ladies and gentlemen, there are millionaires and billionaires who don't actually have $1 billion in the bank.
Their worth is
that's their net worth. Yeah. And I wish people would understand the difference, but yeah, I mean, businesses are going to lose money. And one thing I know about rich people, they do not like to lose money. But in this instance, I think the XFL would have done better, and I think they would have done a better job of starting in April, because right now, women's football, I know people don't watch a lot of people don't really watch women's football, but I cover it. Women's football has just started up a few weeks ago, and they'll be going into April. And they're doing like some type of broadcast as well. But the difference between that is they don't have that much money invested, So, these amateur, I'm not gonna call them amateur leagues, but these leagues outside the NFL, first couple of years, they're gonna lose money. So you just have to expect it. But I just wish the XFL would have stayed packed, because their brand was so much more exciting. And I hope when we get the DC Defenders at home, hopefully we get the same energy we got last year. Because if we don't, then I think that could be a wrap already.
I like it. It's a good take with that. And when it comes to the finances part of the XFL, USFL, UFL, let's table that till we get further into the show, because I do have a couple questions I want to ask you guys based on that once we get to the chopping block. But before we go any further, looks like we've got – oh, wait, no, that's just one of those, like, please subscribe to me messages. I'm not going to read that one, even though I just did. Let's go ahead and take it into the next game, and we have the San Antonio Brahmas. What they did last year with Hines Ward as their head coach. They were a very lackluster performing team, and then everything changed. In my opinion, they were, but we'll get into that in a second. So 27-12, they beat the DC Defenders. Chase Garber's 158 passing yards with 2 touchdowns. John Trey Kirkland, 8 receptions, 61 yards, and a touchdown. The Brahmas defense, 4 sacks and an interception, along with Darius Phillips contributing with an 88-yard interception return nearly to the house for a pick 6, but unfortunately was stopped just short of it. Jordan Ta'amu comes back for the DC Defenders, 235 passing yards with the interception for his performance on the day. And he got the most help out from Ty Scott with 4 receptions, 87 yards, and a touchdown. The big thing that I want to point out for the DC Defenders offense, though, on 13 attempts, they only had 44 rushing yards. Very lackluster performance from their running backs, consider what they were able to do last season. So with that being said, Cool McCain, I'll take this one to start off with you. How do you feel about the performance from both teams in this game right here?
Well, we knew that the DC Defenders were going to be probably one of the better teams, right? Maybe not quite Birmingham, but we knew that they were going to be one of the better teams. When you can be the better team pretty much on offense, your quarterback plays better. When you get sacks and pressures and interceptions and everything on defense, right? When you can win the offensive and the defensive battle, so to speak, per se, you should win the game, right? And that's what DC was able to do. Not as exciting as Birmingham. It wasn't horrible, but I wasn't like looking at it and being like, oh man, this is really good, right? I went back and watched it later back in front because you decided to come on same time as some very important basketball being played, so men's and women. So not the best time to have it anyway. I think a little bit more of a break, like Rob said before, a couple of weeks more in between to kind of clean everything up with March Madness and get people off that would benefit this UFL league more. But not a bad game at all, right? It was some explosive, some exciting plays, but it was just missing something, right? It was watchable, but it felt like a MAC Horizon League football game to an extent. So, that's how I felt about it.
Oh, like what about you, Rob? What are you thinking when it comes to the results of this Brahmas and Defenders game?
Well, first of all, Tamu had a great touchdown pass where it went right to the end zone between defenders. But what happened? The Zebras called a holding call. No, I'm sorry. They called down. It was a player was down the field, illegal player down the field, which sucked because it was a great touchdown pass that got negated. But I want to talk about the San Antonio Brahmas. The Brahmas last year were 3-7. They lost games by 3, 2, 2, and 1. Tell me you want to restructure Hines Ward's contract. Hines Ward, who's one of the more underrated blocking / catching receivers in the National Football League's history. So when I look at this game, I look at the Brahmas. Now you say, have they reset themselves? Have they become a better team? I don't know, because DC lost a lot. DC lost a lot. They lost some on offense, lost some on defense. They're not the same team. And Reggie Barlow is a really good coach, but Reggie Barlow can be kind of, I'm not going to say generic with his offense or with his team, but, sometimes he can be a little conservative. I remember watching him at Virginia State University, my alma mater, the school I went to, graduated from 2013. He coached there, sometimes had a good season. Next season's kind of So, he needs that prolific talent to really go to where he needs to go. It's going to take him some time. This defense is going to get better. But again, I need to see DC at home first. Them starting off on the road in San Antonio, I feel like, first of all, I think that was a bad idea by the UFL. This team should have started off at home. This team should have played on. In fact, this team should have played on a Monday. I'm not going to say a Monday because you had the NCAAs. This team, again, should have played maybe on a Friday night, maybe when they had no NCAAs. Put it in Audi Stadium where they were playing it before. Right. Let the crowd go crazy. But having them on the road to start the season really kind of bummed me out. Like, this team was so exciting last year. Why have them on the road? Put them at home. The offense can do so much better. And as you said, the running backs, they had a bevy of running backs last year. They're not the same. It's a different team. We're going to have to get adjusted to this new DC Defenders team.
Yeah, because especially you guys know from watching football for years, when you establish the run, it gives you more options in the passing game. And that's what we saw with the difference last year with Jordan Ta'amu was he had those options because they were moving the ball and moving the chains consistently, which is why they went 9-1 in the entirety of the year. So looking at that, however, with the Hines Ward part, I get with what you were saying, though. Sometimes being a great player doesn't always transcend into being a great coach at the same time. I think for helping out the wide receivers, being a wide receivers coach or maybe an offensive coordinator somewhere wouldn't be too far-fetched for him. But 3-7 as a head coach.
Hey. Who's giving them the business?
He was giving him the business right there because 3-7.
But let's be honest, Drew, as I just said, as I gave the stats, 3, 5, 3, 2, 2, and 1. That's 5, 7, 8. You lose 4 games by 8 points. And then you bring in Wade Phillips, who we know who Wade Phillips is. He's going to have a few good seasons, and he's going to burn out. Or he's going to have a good season, he's going to burn out. You had an opportunity here, especially – I don't want to get too deep into this. I'm not going to mention that. But the UFL, and it's what I especially appreciated last year, but the XFL, they gave a lot of guys who probably wouldn't got chances in the NFL head coaching spots. Hines Ward is one of the great players I've ever seen. Loved the way he plays. For you to lose 4 games by 8 points, 3, 2, 2, and 1, but they want to restructure your contract, to me, that felt personal. See, the problem is Hines Ward is such a strong personality that sometimes he rubs people the wrong way. And, Wade Phillips is one of those guys. Hey, guys, I'll do whatever you tell me to do because I'm Bum Phillips. I'm Wade Phillips.
He's a Nick Sirianni.
Yeah. I don't talk back. I just do what I'm told. But Hines Ward, you're going to do what I say, and you're going to listen to my input. So basically, Wade Phillips is a company man, and Hines Ward is a man's man, and the Brahmas wanted that. But I'll give them credit. They won the football game. But we'll see how they fared in the next couple of weeks because, as I said, that DC Defenders team was not ready to play. It lost a lot. We'll see when this team plays like a Birmingham or a St. Louis or a Michigan what they're really all about. Because last year, they weren't that bad of a team. They really weren't. They just lost close games. There was bad turnovers, bad refereeing, which is a staple in the world now, bad refereeing. So, hey, we'll see. We'll see. But congratulations to San Antonio. At least they're one team in San Antonio winning.
And some of that shade that you were throwing towards old Wade
Not shade.
Phillips,
It's not shade. It was just the truth.
He left out one thing.
What's that?
You left out one thing. With everything we saw from Hines Ward leading that team last year, did we see a 40-yard trickery play where the punter threw a pass to an offensive lineman for a touchdown? Even if he may have been ineligible that they didn't call, they still got the 40-yard touchdown pass from the punter with the last name of Wing. And I bet you the play had the name Wing in there somewhere. They winged it.
Got you. But you do that in championship games, not week 1 of the UFL season. It's week 1. When you do stuff like that week 1, that tells me one thing, that you are going to be in trouble. You don't pull stuff like that out to the playoffs until you're like maybe 20 seconds left in a game. Classic Bobby Boucher to the quarterback, which is one of the greatest plays in Mud Dogs history. One of the greatest plays in Mud Dogs history. when it beat Red.
Shout out to SCLC.
Anyway,
LSU.
you say that for the championship game, and like the man said on the broadcast, you gotta leave it all on the field.
Man, y'all gonna make me during the commercial break go in the other room grab my Bobby Boucher jersey. That's awesome. But no, I mean, I could see where there were some things that you called out with Wade Phillips may come into fruition over the course of the rest of the season. But yeah, you are kind of taking a huge leap when you're pulling out those trickery plays in week 1. But hey, maybe somebody from upstairs said, hey, Wade, we're having a little hard time with TV ratings. Maybe we can get a little bit of a boost if you do something here. And that's what he had. That's what he pulled out from his sleeve. And that's what we got in that game.
Drew,
I'm trying to look at the positive.
Why do you do this to yourself? You just mentioned hard times. Just like a guy I know who has a really big neck tattoo is having hard time.
Hey, is that a total
surprise, motherfucker?
I don't think so. It is a total surprise.
Got whooped like he was a kid 2 weeks in a row.
Oh, my brother, testify.
Mama, Mama! Mama!
Before we get too off the rails, Dante says, do you guys think we are going to see late round draft picks in the UFL to boast draft stock, maybe 3 games max?
That's a good question. I think that what needs to happen is the XF. Well, not quite, because you look at Brock Purdy, you see what he did. Now guys can be extra motivated. Like, look, if Brock Purdy can do it out of Iowa State when he wasn't that great, maybe I can come out of the league and do it. When you're talking 7th round undrafted free agents, I think this is the new minor leagues for the NFL. So now, are they going to expand rosters? Yes, but they're also adding games as well. So, that's the other problem I see. How many guys are really going to want to go play in a spring league, right? And this is the thing that scares me a little bit. Who wants to go play in a spring league when they've expanded high school games, right? They've expanded college games, especially if you're playing for championships, and now you're playing in a spring league, you're trying to get to the NFL, you're not going to make it to 31 years old having a playing career. So, I mean, it's tough, guys. I'm saying, with so many games expanded, it's tough right now. So, but for the guys who don't get drafted and can't find a team, yeah, I do think that the the UFL will look to get those guys, but it's going to be tough.
What about you, Cool? What do you think about this right here with what Dante's saying?
So I would think more like the undrafted free agents, maybe a late round pick that doesn't make the roster, right? And next year, maybe if I don't make the roster, maybe I'm on the practice squad. Then maybe I try to go to make sure I say it right, the UFL, because I want to say XFL every time too, Rob.
So bad.
So the bad. UFL. And get a little season, show what they could do, and then maybe some guys that have washed out of the league, right? Kind of like what we were having with the XFL in 2020, where you had guys that were kind of cusp making the league. They kind of went to the XFL and they were getting a chance to show what they could do, right? And you could see them up against lesser talent and say, well, they may not be great in the NFL, but as better as they are versus the other XFL talent, in this case, UFL talent, it made sense to say, all right, let's give them another shot. So I think there should be a portion of guys on rosters that you expect. This guy is good enough where he may not make it through the season with us, but he make it through a few games. So let's make sure we have the right backups and quality depth at those positions. But I think that's not a bad idea if you're like a guy that may not make the roster, or a guy that was on the practice squad last year, that sort of thing, more so than like draft picks. Because if I'm a draft pick, like you said, I'm looking at Brock Purdy, I'm looking at guys who went late that made an impact in some way. And I'm saying I'd rather make an impact if possible on the bench on the NFL team than in the UFL.
Yeah. Well, let me say this as well. Like I said, connect the dots. Think about it, guys. This is why I'm saying that this is the unofficial minor leagues of the NFL, because think about it. They're changing all the rules that are just like in the old XFL, now in the UFL. So think about the guys who can be able to make the transition a lot easier. Look at Kevontae Turpin, who's plays for the Cowboys. Mm-hmm. He's going to have a record year this year because they're actually giving him the rules he had back then. And you're actually going to be able to return kickoffs now. So, basically everything that's happening in NFL is the rules of these other leagues because they're making it easier with the minor leagues. So, yeah, the transition, I think, will be a lot smoother for these guys if they're late round picks and want to go to the NFL.
Yeah, I like that. It's definitely a great question there, Dante. Dante always bringing the fire questions each week on this show, and definitely the answers were just as match worthy when it comes to that. I would say the only difference that would be if, say, you didn't start off in the NFL, but you had to start with the UFL, is at least you get some additional tape to send the NFL, like in the case for a kicker that we'll talk about here in a little bit that you alluded to with the last team that we were talking about. But Mickey Delaney's in the house, says, morning,
Mickey.
Everyone. Sorry I'm late. Mick, thank you for tuning in. Mick is like our super fan between, Cool McCain, myself, Cole, and then others that we've, worked with throughout between working with Snowman in the past. So Mick, super fan, and also the comment cop. Shout out to Mick here in the comments. Dante also says the punter pass I felt was more of a marketing idea earlier on to gain interest, which, hey, I said it, could have been there to boost ratings a little bit because a call came in saying we're getting slaughtered out here for March Madness. We need something, guys.
Can I also say something? They need to stop. Listen. I got really pissed off. I got really, really pissed off on Saturday. because I'm watching the game, right? I can't remember which game it was. I believe it was a Sunday game because I had it on my phone. I believe it was the St. Louis game, I believe. And they're interviewing the players after the quarter. That's stupid. Stop interviewing players after quarters when they're on the sideline and they're on their tablets. They're studying, because you know what it looks like at that point. It looks like the stuff is scripted at that point, because it looks like a soap opera drama. Wait until the end of the first half. Interview the coach. If you want to interview a player after the game, fine. But let's have a little more professionalism. Let's have a little more decorum, and stop miking these players up during the game. Because one of these days, somebody's going to say something. And you know what else it seems like? It seems like we never hear anything crazy when the player's mic'd up. And again, that goes back to rigging. I'm not saying the league is rigged, but are you mean to tell me these guys don't say anything crazy during the broadcast? So stop miking players up because it's annoying, and start doing like they used to do. Interview the coach at halftime, talk to a player after the game. It's just too much to me, guys. You can't be interviewing a player every 10 minutes. Like, it's annoying.
Do you feel the same way about having the coaches mic'd up so we can hear the plays in between?
I hate that because it's stupid. Because think about this: with technology now, do you know how fast somebody can radio that or call somebody or text somebody just that quickly? It's just that quick. Then think about it. You got a 30-second clock. Somebody says to play. Hey, coach, here's a play. Like, come on now. Like, it makes it look scripted, guys. I mean, you guys got to admit, it makes it look scripted in a way, and that's not good, especially with sports. And every time you look, they're talking about the bets, the prop bets. And I said this problem with Rear's ugly head years ago, and I was not wrong. It's rearing its ugly head. A lot of this stuff feels scripted, and that is not good for sports. This is not WWE, folks. This is actual real sports. But what's the line now? Because you can actually bet on WWE matches now. Think about that.
DraftKings, yep.
Yeah. Think about how stupid that is. So then you look at the games. You got people that can bet, and if they already know the results, then what's going to happen? So they need to clean some things up. Some things I just don't like.
Yeah, so I want to say it's DraftKings Sportsbook you can do that with, if I remember right, or is it something else?
Its ugly head.
I think DraftKings is one of them. I would say, I think that it can have a place, but not all the time. So, right, like for instance, a player has a big play, right? They have big touchdown play, like the big 40-yard play or something like that, and you catch them like when they come into the sideline and interview them for a minute or two. I think the XFL did a good job of not doing it all the time, but kind of catching at some moments, so it felt like you were getting the person. But then they kind of went to doing it too much, and it's like, bro, we don't need to see it all the time. Right, big plays every once in a while. It's like a major play happening. You're like, all right, let's pan to the coach calling the play for the offense, the coach calling the play for the defense to see how it works. But I think doing it so much, kind of to Rob's point, makes it seem scripted, makes it seem dull because you get used to it. So you're like, oh, here they go again. Whatever. When you need to make it more of like a novelty thing, like every once in a while, maybe try to drop something to pique interest, but not constantly have to feel like you have to talk to players. You have to have the coach's mic on, players mic on, all that different stuff, because it does kind of feel like a production more than a sports game.
Yeah, and if you look at it, guys, back in the 90s or early 2000s, when they interviewed players, it was special. Because guess what? That's the first time you heard from that player. Like back then when they had maybe like one game a week on TV between basketball, football, etc. Especially football, you can only hear from that player so often. Now the internet, you hear from these guys every single day on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. So
their own podcasts.
Yeah, it's not special anymore. So you're like listen to them like, oh, okay. Well, I just talked to this person on Twitter last night. Well, I talked to him on Instagram. It's not that big of a deal. Who cares? You know what I mean? So I really feel that if you are this league, you got to do a better job. You just got to do a better job of not. And what I worry about is when you are dealing with hardcore competition, because anybody, I play sports, anybody there who's played sports, sometimes you come off the field, and I've seen them interview players when something bad happens. You don't really want to talk to anybody, right? So what's going to happen one of these days when somebody blows up on one of these little reporters on the sideline? America's gonna lose this. But listen, since
the players got baited into it. Yeah.
But listen, but here's the thing. Since we're talking about things being scripted, what if the XFL were to script that where one of the players went off on one of the little cute reporters on the sideline, and America loses their mind, and then the eyes go to the XFL? I'm serious, because listen, when it comes to marketing, I put nothing past these people. Remember Richard Sherman on this when he Legion of Boom, LOB, and people thought it was an actual gang, street gang. People are that stupid. People. It is so easy to get people sucked in this country. It is so easy. So I would script something like that. Since we're scripting stuff, let's go ahead and script that UFL.
Well, guys, we'll go ahead and come on back to the comments here shortly. We're going to take it to the next game here in the Open and Drive right quick. So our next game that we have to cover after that would be the Memphis Showboats taking on the Houston Roughnecks. The Memphis Showboats win 18-12. Case Cookus, 204 passing yards, touchdown and interception. Daywood Davis, 7 receptions, 43 yards. Jonathan Allen, 4 receptions, 49 yards. But, the story here would be former Philadelphia Eagles receiver Vince Papali's son, Vinny Papali, 4 receptions, 36 yards, and a touchdown to contribute towards the Memphis Showboats victory. The Showboats defense also had 4 sacks with the fumble recovery and a touchdown as a result of that. And Jarrett Guarantano for the Roughnecks, only 157 passing yards, but a 96.7 QBR in the loss here. When it comes to this game, Rob, what were your biggest takeaways from this Memphis Showboats victory by 6 points?
Well, it was a good defensive game. Clearly, the Houston Roughnecks are not the same team that we're used to, that we saw in 2020. We expected them to be more of a juggernaut going into last year. I need to see more from them continuously on offense, because that's been their issue, has been offense. Their defense is always really good. Their defense always makes great plays. But for Memphis, I think that Memphis is such rich in tradition. I think this is good to have this team be successful. Memphis is, deep with basketball, culture, all that different stuff. So I think that people can definitely get behind this Memphis team. Like the name, the Showboats. So yeah, it was a good defensive game, and I still enjoy defense in 2024. So, but they got to get their offense together. They definitely have got to get their offense together, and if they can't, then it's going to be a long season for this Houston Roughnecks team. They can't get their offense together. 12 points, it's okay, but you got to score more than 12 points if you're going to win in this league.
Absolutely. How about you, Cool? How do you feel about this? Do you agree with Rob with that, or do you have a different take on it?
Yeah, defense was big, right? We saw that the Showboats had 4 sacks on, I want to make sure I say this right, Jarrett Guarantano, I think.
Guarantano.
I heard,
Guarantano.
Yeah, I heard them say it, but when you're looking back at it later, it doesn't always register right. They sacked him for real. It doesn't for me, at least. 4 times they sacked him. They got 3 fumbles, right? So a lot of wild defensive plays, very good defensive battle. You got to have that sometimes. My thing is, if you're going to give me one or two things, either give me a good, solid defensive battle with a little bit of scoring, or give me a score fest. Don't give me the who cares, 20 field goals and all that. Give me a couple of good plays and then some solid defense. And I feel like this game was definitely that. Papale's son, that was cool. He got a touchdown. They also had a running touchdown or whatever. So made some plays. They did enough. They stopped them at the end to ensure the victory. But again, if we're saying in the honesty part, not the most exciting game to watch, but not bad.
Well, here's the problem too, guys. Think about this, right? The first quarter, Memphis had a 16-play drive for 56 yards, and they got a field goal out of it.
Yep.
10 minutes and 29 seconds in the first quarter. That's almost, come on now. And then you look at Memphis in the second quarter. Guys, 11 plays, 74 yards, 7 minutes and 57 seconds. Shout out to the 757. 11-yard touchdown pass from Cookus, and they led 15-0. So think about that. Look at that, guys. 7 minutes and 10 minutes. That's what? 17 minutes in the first half on 2 drives? Come, like, what is Houston's defense going to do at that point? Seriously. What are you going to do? That's almost 17 minutes in the first half. It's only 30 minutes in the first half. It's only 30 minutes total in the first half. I mean, you take up 17 minutes on 2 drives?
Yeah, that was going to be one of the biggest things I threw out there was their time of possession.
Jesus Christ.
I mean, you look at that, you look at the fact that they both teams had 9 drives, yet when you look at the total time possession, Memphis had nearly 40 minutes in time possession and Houston only had 20 minutes. And the amount of plays, Memphis got off 62 plays in comparison to 37 from Houston. So like Rob was saying, the domination with the clock and being able to keep the other team off the field, that was the biggest contribution towards
Say
the
that again, Drew.
win.
Say it again, Drew. Almost 40 minutes of possession time, right? By the Memphis Showboats. They went 18-12. That's a problem. That shows me one thing, again, that Houston's offense is a serious problem. That defense was on the field way too much. And when you have your defense on the field like that and they can't make stops and you can't get the team off the field, then, I mean, what are you going to do? What are you honestly going to do? That's horrible. 18 points on 40 minutes? Imagine Patrick Mahomes with 40 minutes of possession. How what he would have. Come on now. I mean, that's just bad, man. And Houston deserves better. Houston is the hallmark of this league, just like Birmingham. Listen, guys, we have to have Birmingham. We have to have Houston be good. If both those teams are good and they are at their peaks, then we have the clash. Because for a lot of years, people thought about to themselves, what if we got Birmingham? What if we got Houston? And clearly right now, Birmingham is the better team and Houston is kind of slid. And maybe it's because it's gone interconference. And maybe when they go up against an actual XFL team that's still, in their division, maybe they'll do better. But for right now, it's looking a little rough for the Roughnecks for a really, really good franchise that I really respect and like.
I mean, it's looking rough for the XFL division as a whole because except for the Brahmas, the entirety of the XFL division was shut out as far as win-losses. So right now, they really got to step it up. But we'll get into that more into the show when I got a couple questions for you guys towards the end. But let's go ahead and take it into the final game of this past week and talk about what we would say, or what I would say would be the game of the week. And with the game of the week that we have here, I would say with this 18-16 victory by the Michigan Panthers, coming from the St. Louis Battlehawks, who played pretty well last year in the XFL, 216 passing yards and 2 TDs from A.J. McCarron, who was able to capitalize on that appearance in the XFL last year, go back to the Cincinnati Bengals, even though he was just a backup, but now is back in this league, now reincarnated as the UFL, and does that with his numbers and getting the production out of Marcel Aitman that he did, 6 receptions, 60 yards, and a touchdown. Wes Hills definitely comes back and definitely displays the greatness in his running game that he did from last season with 11 carries, 85 yards, 7.7 yards per carry. Didn't get it in the end zone, but he still did great on the ground. And then the brother of Puka Nacua, Kai Nacua, with 11 tackles, 8 of them solo, and 1 sack. But the big takeaway that we have is how this game ended. It was a 15-16 game there at the end as the Battlehawks were leading by 1. Jake Bates comes up there to take a 64-yard field goal, kicks it, but gets iced during that and does something that's only been done 2 other times in the NFL, which is why he's been getting calls, because once he got iced, he goes and kicks another one and still nails the game-winning 64-yard field goal, which is what Rob was talking about earlier. When you think about that, the fact that it's been rarely done, because usually the whole point of icing the kicker is so that way they miss the next one. And statistically, it's proven most times than not, they miss the kick. So Jake Bates is getting calls based on what he did from this game. When you think about how close this game was, going down to 8 seconds left in the game, he kicks 2 field goals, 2 64-yard field goals literally to win a game. What are your thoughts on this game and how it transpired there, Cool McCain?
So, love the AJ McCarron story, right? AJ McCarron's a guy that, anytime you hear him talk, you hear his teammates talk about him, they all say positive, great things about him. So for him to kind of be able to be on the Battlehawks, and be a force kind of there, where he's not able to do that in the NFL, at least he hasn't been so far. I like that story. The Panthers, they did what they needed to do. For the game myself, the flow, not a lot of scoring, late scoring kind of picks up late in a lot of the games. It was exciting, more so than some of the other games in my mind, just watching it. I don't know if that's because you anticipated maybe some things happening. Then, of course, we fast forward to the end. McCarron makes the play to Altman with like 49 seconds or so left. They get the conversion pass from McCarron and Sutherland, right? So you say, okay, now all the Battlehawks got to do is hang in there with their defense, pin them back, play a little defense, and the game's theirs. Michigan doesn't get a lot of yards, but they do enough to put Bates in position. And like you said, they ice him. He still makes a 64-yard field goal. I don't care what league you're in, a 64-yard field goal is a 64-yard field goal. And this was his first regular season field goal attempt since high school. He was a soccer player and a kickoff specialist in college. And that's something else I wanted to bring up, because what I'm noticing, even on like the high school level and the lower level of college, some of these players that are soccer players, because of the accuracy with which they can kick, they can make very good field goal kickers. You know what I'm saying? Because if you can kick a soccer ball with the accuracy that they want you to, right, in a goal with someone's in the way attempting to stop you, right, you're kicking from longer distances, but you have an open field goal. That may be something that teams want to look for in the future when they're looking for a guy to make these long field goals, to have that accuracy, to not be rattled when they get stopped and froze and they have to go back and kick it. So big ups to him for making it. Big ups to the team for having the testicular fortitude to say, hey, even though they're trying to ice you, you got it. Great ending.
Yeah, no, definitely a great take on that, and especially a great point with bringing up with him being a soccer player in college and first meaningful, field goal conversion since high school. Definitely a great way to touch up on that. What do you think, Rob, when it comes to this game right here in the game of the week between the Panthers and the Battlehawks?
Well, I think football in Michigan, in the state of Michigan right now, is very important with the Lions, and you have the Michigan Wolverines. So there's a lot of good momentum, and I think that the fans will gravitate to it. 64 yards is 64 yards, and it is hard to kick a football that distance. What I'll also say is that when it comes to St. Louis, I really like the fact that they're playing football in St. Louis. I love the atmosphere. Wasn't too happy about the attendance, because last year that attendance was always really good. AJ McCarron is a consummate pro. I think AJ McCarron's type of guy that can go from the XFL to NFL, back and forth, because he's mainly a backup. But I think that he could be one of those staples that goes, in between, and that this will help him get a coaching job after he's done. Probably going back to Alabama, doing some coaching, things like that. But as far as Bates goes, great field goal, great game. We need to see more games like that throughout the XFL season. He did a lot of Jake Bates did a lot of good things. He's himself. He praised his Lord and Savior, which I have no problem with. I know some people had a problem with that, but hey, that's his right in life. I'm glad he did that. I'm glad that he's able to be who he wants to be, not who the media wants him to be. So yeah, I think that with that field goal, that will bring some eyes to the league a little more, because they're going to wonder, can he kick 66? Can he kick 67? I know it's a little far-fetched to say that, but with that performance, he's definitely able to do some numbers for the league. And as Drew said earlier, when you look at the kickers and you look at the punters, they did a very good job this past weekend. And special teams is a critical part of this game. So hopefully lovers of special teams especially will come back and see how this league does, because this league has been notorious for having really good special teams.
One thing that I was able to take from Bates's interview from Pat McAfee show yesterday was the longest he had kicked before this, and it was only on a placeholder, like in practice, was 65 yards. So this is his max in a game, and basically max as a unit where you have a holder and you're doing it, live action. So for him to be able to pull that off, and especially with what both of you were saying, we had great kicking this past weekend, but then with what Cool was saying, the fact that he'd only played soccer for the past 4 years and now he's playing football all of a sudden again, it's definitely something that we are not privy to seeing. Somebody who basically takes a break for a little bit, comes back, and to make a 64-yard field goal, that's like the equivalent of throwing like a 50 or 60-yard bomb on a dime, in a Hail Mary to get because you especially when you're doing it consecutively within seconds. Like doing a 64-yard field goal is one thing, but doing them after you've been iced, I mean, it's literally like throwing a 60-yard dime on the money for a touchdown with 4 seconds left in the game. That's what I would compare it to.
And I can also say that from when I was, I still cover local high school football, like in New Kent County, for example, New Kent County, Virginia, they usually will get a player from the soccer team and come over and kick for the football team. And I've seen guys make 35, 40, 45-yard field goals. I'll also say, don't be surprised, guys, if we don't see with the evolution of women's football and things like that. Don't be shocked if we don't see a women's kicker soon in the UFL as well. I mean, I'm not saying it'll happen this year, maybe next couple of years, but don't be surprised if they are because like I said, when you look at the UFL, XFL, blah, 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 USFL, they're always putting trends in place that NFL is copying. So don't be shocked if you don't see a women's kicker. Don't be shocked if you don't see a women's coach like King, who was the coach in Washington. Don't be surprised if you don't see some women's players who were former WFA, that's Women's Football Alliance, other women's football leagues, who come up through the ranks, and then the NFL copies that formula. And not just because they're women, but because they know football. That's what the distinction I want to make. Stop. Let's get these women in position because they know how to play football. Let's keep all the politics and all the other stuff out of it because I'm getting so sick and tired of it at this point. They know the game. They know how to coach the game. They know how to talk about the game. It's not because of gender, none of that stuff. So I think the USFL will do a good job of doing that in the future, and I think the NFL will copy from there. That's just my opinion on that.
Now, before we move on, while we're still on this game right here, based on what he did in that game, in the kicker that we're talking about, it's already been reported that he's been receiving calls over the past 48 hours from NFL teams. The Lions are one that's been a big name on that list.
Minor league.
Exactly. But do you think, based on that he finishes the season with this team, or go ahead or already gets signed during this spring free agent moves for teams and goes ahead and makes the jump to the NFL, plays one game and done this season for the UFL?
Don't bite the hand that feeds you. Basically what I mean is finish the season. The NFL season doesn't really get started until, we don't get started until September, but we got preseason games in August. You don't really need to get out. You don't really need to get out there until July. And you're a kicker. And that's one of the problems I see in today's culture that makes me so angry. Guys, just like with free agency, you don't win games with free agency. You don't win games in the first week of free agency. You can wait. You can let the market play out, because a lot of times you have guys who come on the chopping block who help you win games during the season. You don't have to rush it. Play the season, continue to master your craft. Now, I'll say this. If in the next 3 to 4 weeks he kicks game winners that are like 60, 55, 60 plus and all that stuff, then I would leave. Just don't do it off one sample size, because we've seen people try to say, "Oh, I did one good thing," and they go to the NFL and they fail, and the UFL, the league they left is like, well, you kind of stumped them. You kind of stumped on our heart a little bit. So take the time, continue to master your craft. Just because you get an A on one test doesn't mean that you got to stop. You can stop school for life. You got to keep going, keep progressing, keep getting better. That's all I'm saying.
Well, solid take right there. I definitely agree with that. I just wanted to ask the question because there's been a lot of hype on it, especially since yesterday morning on out to even right now.
Well, we do live in the social media age where everybody wants everything to happen now.
Yeah. What about you,
It
Cool?
takes
Do you agree?
time.
Do you agree with that, or do you have a different take when it comes to him jumping ship to the NFL if given the opportunity already?
So I agree with that. I was about to just say what he said. Plus, the only thing I want to add to it is play in the UFL as long as you can, right? You may not make it to the end of the season, but play as long as you can, to the point that Rob made about, hey, you may go there and the pressure might get to you, right? Like you start kicking in full NFL stadiums, you're getting heckled, the other team talking smack to you. It may be a little different situation. You may not perform as well. So if you stay here, you ride as long as you can, then the opportunity can always present itself. Well, maybe if I go back to the
And
UFL,
let's not forget, he kicked in a dome.
Ford Field.
At Ford Field.
Yeah.
We need to see him on grass or on turf outdoors. See, it's a lot different when you're indoors and then you're kicking in Green Bay in December the 15th or 16th or whatever, and it's really cold outside and you got to kick that football. So I'm just saying, don't bite the hand that feeds you. Take your time. Understand the fact that great kick, but you still got a lot of work to do, buddy.
That's why TB12 to flare those footballs.
Hey, listen. Hey, okay, real quick. I'm gonna say it to give me 5-10 seconds. It didn't matter if he deflated the football. It didn't matter if he punched holes in the football. The Colts had no chance in hell that game. That's all I'm gonna say. The Colts walk-in is a great story, and they had no chance. Didn't matter.
The only rebuttal I have for Rob is, then why cheat? Why even cheat then? What's the point of cheating if you don't need to? Because you're addicted to it, because you are a habitual cheater.
Well, I will say this. I was in a press conference one time with Tom Brady, and I'll say this. I was in a press conference with him and Cam Newton, and Cam Newton can be the nicest. He could be, even though he's bigger than Tom Brady, nicest guy in the world. Tom Brady spent a little bit too much time with what was the tight end's name?
Gronkowski.
No, I'm sorry.
Aaron Hernandez.
Aaron Hernandez.
Let me tell you something. It was some straight up stone cold looking faces on that Patriots team back then, man. I don't know what them and Aaron Hernandez were doing after games, man. But yeah, Tom Brady nothing to play with, bro.
You got to put Tebow in the mix too. You got to put Tebow in the mix too, especially if you saw that 4-episode docuseries on Netflix with I forget, it was something about the swamp, but I remember watching it a while back.
I wouldn't mess with. Listen, Tebow is one of them guys. He's really deep in his faith, and he is a nice guy. I wouldn't mess with Tebow. Tebow is one of them guys that'll shock you. So I'm just saying, just don't let the looks fool you. Tom Brady, man, is a straight up. He's a killer in his eyes. Don't play with Tom Brady.
Speaking of which, let's see what we got here in the comments. We got Mickey telling you, Rob, it's better to get pissed off than pissed on.
Okay.
That's what he had to say earlier. So Mickey,
I'm confused, but okay.
We call it his Mickey. We call it his Mickey-isms because he likes to throw some wild stuff out in the chat.
Well, there are some isms, I guess. Some isms.
Talk, Rob. They pushing the sports betting more than the games.
Yeah, because they always have. It's just that they're now at the forefront. It used to be that you go talk to your bookie. Now you talk to your phone.
Facts. No, that's definitely a solid take on that too. It definitely feels weird after watching the NCAA and NFL games, and it doesn't feel like they are taking this serious and feel more like a minor league. Yep, that's basically what you were saying earlier with the minor leagues too. I think you might have said that right before you went into that take. Hot take, I can see a SEC Big Ten IFL merger. I think the NCAA is done.
Yeah, and I also think that sports is trash now. Because 10 years ago, I made a prediction. And, it was funny. I was listening to the radio, and they said that we're eventually going to get a 16-team league between the SEC and the Big Ten. And, guys, congratulations. Congratulations. College football you got the playoff now, just like with the FCS. When you watch the FCS playoffs, it gets boring. When high school playoffs, right? They got so many games to win a championship. It gets to the point where you're like, yo, just get this over with. Just get it over with. And it's going to guess what that's the point it's going to get to in college football. Because as I've continued to say, regular season. The people hate the regular season now, and it's like it's obsolete. It doesn't matter. The regular season in college football is so important, and now it's not even going to matter anymore. I mean, we have people questioning UConn's regular season. Who did they really play, and all this other stuff. What happened with Florida State, even though they got beat by Georgia, even though they had like 1,000 players out, what happened to Florida State is going to be the slow death of college football. And here we go. It's the pros now. College football is dead, folks. Sorry.
It is. I mean, when it comes to now these NIL deals and everything.
Yeah, NIL did that. Yeah.
Oh, no. I don't mind the NIL deals. Players were getting paid anyway. It's just that the government wasn't taxing. That's why all these people are on TV talking about, oh, we want to pay the players. They didn't care about the players. They were doing the government's work for them. Now the government's getting their money. Before, it was under the table. It was just being honest. The money was always. Do you really think Alabama won't pay nobody in 08, 09, and 10?
Well, I'm just saying NIL makes it so that you can do it. You can do it openly, and you can bid against people. So before you kind of had to slide on the table. NIL, you could just say, "Hey, look, Alabama talking about $15 million a year. What you got? Talk to me. If it ain't more than $15 million, why we talking?"
But that's what I'm saying. They were already
so
doing
openly
these
now.
things. They were already doing these things, but now it can be taxed. That's the difference. It can be taxed.
And now some of these teams that were a little less hesitant for the just to keep it real, for the boosters to say, well, we're only gonna put up so much money because we don't want it to be traceable. Now it's like, oh, it doesn't matter, right? Texas A&M, they just open up they checkbook and say, hey, what y'all want, right? I mean, not that everybody's going and not that it's working, but it's so much easier to do.
And how many championships has that equaled out to? None. You know why?
But those guys are getting paid just like in the NFL. The teams that had the highest,
and that's what I'm saying.
Pay these guys,
and that's my point. That's my point. It's the death of college football. Think about it, guys. It was a point. Remember when Christian? You guys know who really started this, right? It was Christian McCaffrey and Leonard Fournette. Because remember, before all the stuff with the playoff and all this other crap, that's why I hate the playoff. People were actually wanting to play in the bowl games. You guys remember when the bowl games were actually important? Now, nobody wants to even play in them because it's like this culture in the media of this corporate media of if you don't make it to the college football playoff, then who cares? And that's wrong. But guess what? We're going to continue to be greedy. We're going to continue to do things like this. And guess what it's going to lead to? You know what it's going to lead to. The end of college football. And we can't blame anybody but ourselves. Greedy. Look at college basketball. Look at when they broke up the old Big East. College basketball regular season used to mean something. Now the only thing anybody cares about is March Madness. That's sad.
It's kind of like the giving an inch or taking a mile take, but I definitely agree with what you were saying there. But further in the comments, we got Victor Locke saying, "Good morning, gentlemen. How are you?" Good morning there, Victor Locke. Thank you for tuning in. Whether it be on Sotoba Media and Comey Media. Looks like Sick Dicky joins in, says, "My apologies for being late at Drew Willingham, but thank you very much for tuning in, Sick Dicky. No worries. Glad you were able to make it." And he has some great lines for me to read right here as Cool McCain is brought to you by Mile High Cheesesteaks, the highest quality of Philly cheesesteaks outside of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. I definitely butchered that one. Mile High Cheesesteaks. High off the brotherly love.
Thank you for not saying high off the brotherly shove. I appreciate that.
Yeah, I was looking out for you because some others would have thrown it in there. I was looking up, but I didn't want to bring it up. It's April now. We gotta give it a break.
Not a fan of the name. Not a fan of the name.
The off the cuff outburst of Drew Willingham are brought to you by Peanut Butter and Jealous, now available in funky passion fruit, strange strawberry, and grape soda purple. I actually might have to try that grape soda purple. That actually sounds
kind of good.
That sounds pretty good. The other ones, we'll feed those off to the people that need to be punished. I'm curious about Rob's championship belt. What exactly is that? Go ahead and let them know, Rob. Where can you find a championship maker to make a belt like that?
I got mine from Trophy Smack, but don't copy my ish. It's Robb Johnson Media. This is my brand. Robb Johnson Media. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. If you copy it, it's gonna be copywritten very soon. So if I see anybody,
hey Rob,
and listen, if I see anybody on my belt, I'm suing you.
Rob, don't forget that on Saturday, sir.
Oh no. I got something a lot better than for Saturday. I got the undisputed title sitting in the room.
Are you going?
Oh no, I'm not.
No.
I'm not spending $2 million for seats.
$2 million. Well, Cool McCain's going. Cool McCain.
I'm going to Raw now because I agree with the $2 million. I'm going to Raw.
Yeah.
You're not. You're not going. You're not going to SmackDown or WrestleMania. You're just going.
I'm going to Raw.
Okay, so you're going to New York. Okay.
I have the confines of a comfortable couch, a very respectable Peacock subscription. I'm going to sit here on Saturday. Well, I might skip Saturday because I got a lot of stuff to do. But I might just skip until I might watch the Saturday edition on Sunday morning or Sunday afternoon, and then I'm gonna sit here Sunday night and watch my tribal chief defend and win his championship. So other than that, life is good. Robb Johnson Media. Please follow me on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and other platforms. And if you troll me, I will get you.
Well, Rob,
if you troll me, I'll get you.
don't throw a copyright out, but I do have a belt in the works. It's not going to look like yours, though. I promise. It's different. It is a Sartoba Media Championship, but I have to admit that it was inspired by your belt. At least the idea of having one made.
Yeah,
but
trophy smack. Like I don't know how I came across it, but trophy smack is dope.
Yeah, I'm working on one for that, but I ended up tabling it. But I have been working on actually 2.
You got 2 ideas. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'm definitely looking forward to seeing it because when Rob displayed that belt right there, I was like, that is definitely some greatness right there when it comes to having your own championship belt because, you know, it's cool to have like, you know, the world championship above like that and the WWE titles, but sometimes you got to switch it up and have your own custom. There's nothing wrong with going outside the box and having your own custom championship. Dante Hill says, but NIL evens the playing field. You can't recruit a kid just be like a depth piece. Look at a Joe Burrow and Justin Fields.
Okay.
All right.
What?
Listen,
guys, I get it. NIL is great. The problem is that people are already regretting it, and then it's going to start getting sanctioned and all the other stuff. It's about to get ugly, guys. I'm just saying, it's about to get really ugly. I mean, good point, Dante Hill. I really respect your opinion, but it's just NIL is gonna get really crazy very soon because the NCAA is gonna, especially with Dion, if he keeps taking advantage of it the way he is, they're gonna change the rules.
Sick Dicky comes back, and Sick is this was makes this show international because Sick is all the way over there in Norway. Says Rob laying the cut and looking like MVP back in 2008, 2009 with the cornrows. Laying in the cut, he says.
Interesting.
Thankfully, I'm in Europe and we still have the WWE network up here. So he gets a little bit better coverage. It's not as censored as what we see here on Peacock.
Do you have the European title, Sick Dicky? Do you have the European Championship there? European Championship?
Oh, you mean like in his collection? Like we have our collections?
Does he have any collections like the greatest European champion of all time, D'Lo Brown? Which is like which just saying that is the greatest thing ever because it's the European championship. You're looking at the real deal now. Woo!
Well, Sick does not have the championship, although I'm sure he's getting a good laugh, especially at your D'Lo Brown and bringing up the theme song. But guys, we have definitely gone through the first round there with now I'm sounding like in-around sports debate with opening drive. We're going to take this into our first commercial break, and when we come back, we've got the Gridiron Scoop action ahead.
All right, let's go. We got trips, right? At 42, 989 on 2. Ready? Quick!
We're just getting started. Total Football Talk will return right after this.
Everything Boston. I love you morons. New Kids on the Block, New Edition.
Dear whatever the law firm is. Sincerely, the U.S. Supreme Court.
Ben Affleck, Matt Damon. Go yourself again. Jason.
Ready to hang with some fellas who know football? Let's ride. LC Muscles 28.
I think they're the most overrated defense in the league.
Steel Sermon.
We did not trail for a single second.
Tiny Tim.
McCarthy is a bonehead.
A Pistol 90.
I'm going with my boys. Fins up, baby!
Get ready for the Four Horsemen of Pick'ems. Every Wednesday night at 10 p.m. Eastern, 9 p.m. Central on YouTube. Poppy J.
You got the option to cry for the government. You got the option to protest. You got the option to keep buying. But this is also an option.
Wise El Jefe.
We're the first tech geeks. We're the first gamers. We're the first everything. Everything. Like Gen X's, we are the ones.
BS3 Network proudly presents the crew from the New York boroughs who never wants that smoke. Nah, they want that fire. Poppy J and Wise El Jefe. Fridays at 9 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Central. Check your local listings for your viewing and listening pleasure.
Welcome back to Total Football Talk. And during the commercial break, I was able to download something for Rob that I'll play for him here in a second. But it looks like Rob's got something on his mind he wants to tell us.
I like that little commercial. It looked like a old school setting of Living Single, and then the fire was cool. You know, it could have some negative things, but because fire, but it was cool.
Shout out to Cole Johnson, our co-host here on the program here.
I like that.
As well as he's got some other projects in the works from his commercials. I mean, when it comes to the great commercials that we see here, got to give Cole the credit because the fire would not be here without him. He definitely puts in great work. It's been an inspiration to those of us to step our games up out here in these streams. But definitely, yeah.
In these streams, I like that.
I was waiting for it.
You were waiting for
it. Streaming.
You were waiting.
Streaming.
You were waiting. Were you waiting for it like Rob was waiting for this in the last segment?
You're looking at the real deal now. You're gonna kick this sorry ass out on the street.
Victory is sweet. Here's the receipt.
Bring it on.
What you gonna do about it? Bring it on. What you gonna do?
When you have wrestling fans on a football show, that is what you get here on Tuesday mornings. But guys, before we go any further, got a couple more comments we'll bring up before we go into the next segment. And it looks like Sick Nicky definitely coming back with Rob. You'd probably look better than me and D'Lo's chest protector. But Rob's theme song, according to Sick Dig, is this.
1, 2, you hear the clock ticking. You about to stop living.
Here it comes. Here it comes.
But the day don't have no memory. I'm coming. Nobody can stop me. Nobody.
In this day and time, that's not the song to play. Can't nobody hold me down. Oh no, I'm coming.
Anything that's like I'm coming, holding me down. Nobody stopping me. Nobody can hold me. Like all that. Yeah, everybody.
I mean, when you really think about, when you go back and look at some of these wrestling bloopers, they really make you think Vince McMahon was really on his issue.
Especially at that time in the 2000s. So,
yes.
Yeah, he was mad wild at that time.
And Sick, I definitely did give you a lowdown of the theme song here after that. So we'll go ahead and pass through that one. But can Rob do D-Lo's head shake? He did during the
He already did it.
He already
I
did it.
did it. And I'm not if you want me to do it again, you gotta send me $500. plus a 5% tip.
Oh, that was great. Guys, we're going to
I don't do this for free.
Speaking of that, we're going to take it into the Gridiron Scoop. See what we got questions we got on deck for the next segment. I don't know. Before that, Rob looks like a creative character out of NFL Street 2, one of my favorite games on PS2.
I'm so confused right now. I don't know who Sick Dig is, but it's
He says it's all love. It's all love.
It's all live.
He meant to put it's all love.
Oh, but... I feel you. I feel you, man. It's all good, because hey, listen, I'm a nice guy. I'm gonna get you back soon on one of my podcasts. But hey, it's all love.
Sick likes to basically take things and do this.
Right now, I don't know, man.
Off the rails, definitely.
I mean, if we haven't taken this yet.
And we're over an hour in. We've been doing well.
Yeah, we're doing pretty good. But see, he fixed it. He put us all love. But now that we're in the Gridiron Scoop, though, guys, let's take it into a little bit of NFL action for a little bit. Now that we've talked about UFL, we'll come back to UFL, towards the end. But with the
Good
NFL,
stuff.
What do you think about 49ers Brock Purdy banked $739,000 in NFL performance-based pay for the 2023 season? Did Purdy deserve to receive this bonus? Did he deserve to not receive it? Or did he deserve more? What is your take on this there, Cool McCain?
I'm going to say Brock Purdy, get your coins. You agreed upon them. They were in a contract. You did what you needed to do, get your coins. Do you deserve more? You should have negotiated more if you wanted more, but get your coins.
Well, I mean, I think that I'm not really too sure how that works when it comes to he's still in his rookie scale deal, and they're kind of it's a structured deal with everybody who gets the rookie scale deal. So there's really not but so much wiggle room there. But I think that's a good take as far as get your coins while you can, because I mean, you're not guaranteed it. It's performance based pay. So with that being said, Rob, what is your solid take when it comes to this right here with Brock Purdy, $739,000?
You said $730,000, correct?
Almost 740, but 730.
Yeah. Well, okay. So I looked up something, right? If you make $700,000 in California, they'll tax you about $318,000. So basically, he needs to try to get more but here's the problem, guys. Kyle Shanahan is going to be the revolution of being able to bring in new quarterbacks every 3 or 4 years, because that's where the NFL is going. That's why they got to be careful, because Brock Purdy is easily replaceable. Because let's say, I don't know, Michael Penix falls to the 49ers at the last pick of the 31st pick. Think Michael Penix isn't better than Brock Purdy? Or some of these other guys, if they fall, aren't better than Brock Purdy? Brock Purdy needs to have gotten more. And when he didn't win that Super Bowl, it hurt him. Because guess what, guys? He's replaceable. There's probably only one guy in the NFL who's not replaceable at this point, and that's Patrick Mahomes. Everybody else is pretty much replaceable, outside of maybe Joe Burrow. But Joe Burrow has a lot of injuries. We have to remember that. He's been injured since college. So just saying, there's only one guy that's not replaceable, and that's Patrick Mahomes. So if I'm Brock Purdy, I'm saying that's not enough, because there's no guarantee that this year his 49ers team is going to be the same as been in the past. So he better get his coins. He better get in. He better get that contract. Forget about the team. Forget about being loyal. He needs to get paid before it's too freaking late.
Oh, no, you're absolutely right. That's where I was going to kind of roll with it because, his rookie scale deal is only a 4-year, $3.737 million contract, right?
And in California, that's nothing.
Yeah, exactly, which is part of what I was going to get you because you hit the nail on the head with the taxes. So he's not due to really renew it until the following summer, till the following offseason with 2025 offseason. So thinking about that, the fact of what you just said with taxes for one, and, his base salary last year was $870,000. So pretty much what he just got is his bonus. It's like 85% of what he normally makes in a season. So like you said, being loyal, you might have to negotiate some type of deal where you make a little bit more if you can get it a little bit ahead of time, because to kind of answer Sick Diggie's question that he said, like, what bonus incentives did he have in his contract? In the list of like the 20 to 25 players who were eligible for the incentive-based pay, it doesn't really go down the list and say what they did. The only really indicator that it said in the article that I read was he had started 16 of the 17 games, which apparently that was part of his incentives in his contract, which it's wild that even a Mr. Irrelevant has that type of incentive in his contract that much down to the T to get those type of incentives.
I found one other one. He made part of his incentive. He made $89,000 just for making the Super Bowl. If he had won it, he would have got $164,000. So I did find that one when I was looking. So yeah,
but still, even that, you still got like another.
It's only a part of it.
Yeah,
it's only a part of it, but that's like one of the incentives that he got.
Yeah, I think the big part of it, based on like the context of what I was reading earlier this morning, was, if you start a certain amount of games, you're guaranteed a certain amount of.
And then, like, if you're a Pro Bowler, all pro, different stuff like that, you get bonuses for that too. Then workout bonuses.
He didn't play. He still got there. Yeah.
All those things too.
Yeah, all those bonuses definitely taking effect. So yeah, Sick, between the amount of games he played, making it to the Super Bowl, getting elected to the Pro Bowl, and other statistical categories that he probably met throughout the year as well, between passing yards and touchdowns, I'm assuming. All that came into play because nobody thought at the time, which is why he got the contract that he did, that he was going to play as much as he has at this point in his career, for one, but two, put up the numbers that he's put up. So
31, 11, 4,280 yards. But again, as I'll say, there's some issues coming up. Brandon Ayuk could possibly be on his last year. Deebo Samuel is getting older. Christian McCaffrey ain't getting any younger. The offensive line is getting older. So he needs to capitalize. He needs to realize that this is a business. Being loyal is cool, but this is a business. And if he doesn't capitalize, then he could possibly be losing out on millions to hundreds of millions of dollars.
Absolutely. Because being loyal for too long can definitely screw you in the end. There's definitely people you can ask, and we can get advice and bring it up on different points and different type of contexts on different type of shows when it comes to that type of communication right there. But here and now, when it comes to football, when it comes to this right here, good on Brock Purdy for getting his money, but based on what he's done the past 2 seasons, I think he's deserved a little bit more, because especially when you bring up the point that Rob brought up, when you have all that tax coming out of it, and if you're basically only banking less than 2/3 of what you got in a season, that's a lot of tax money to throw out there. That's why people are playing in Florida and other states that don't have taxes coming out of their checks like that, or even any at all, because at the end of the day, like, if you're throwing like 40% of your paycheck, or even if it's a little bit less than that, still 1/3 of it into taxes, getting ripped off. That's close to slave labor.
Yeah. I mean, think about it, guys. There's a reason that he came back so fast from the concussion, because he wouldn't have got the bonus money. You have to play a certain amount of games. That's why you have guys who say, hey, listen, even though I'm hurting today, I still want to go on the field. But then you have teams who are sneaky and say, and some teams can't wait for injury. Look at the Russell Wilson thing. Imagine if he had got hurt and then he would have had to get paid that money that was in his contract. Some teams would be like, well, you're hurt. We don't want to risk it because we care about your health. But meanwhile, we're sticking you and injecting you, giving you all these pills and hurting your body. So yeah, sometimes these guys have to go out there to get that bonus money because they need the money, because they're not making that much on their salaries. Bonus money helps a lot of guys to eat in this league, and it's sad. Still in this day and time.
That's very true.
Very, very true. Next up on the scoop, we got Vontae Davis, former NFL star, found dead in Miami home at age 35. With that being said, will he be remembered for more than just retiring at halftime during a Week 2 game in the 2018 season when the Bills took on the Chargers? What do you think about that there, Rob Johnson? I'll go ahead and let you start it out with your laugh right there.
Whoa. Some of you out there, woo, made fun of this guy. Some of you guys made the memes and all that. How you feeling this morning? Because clearly at the time I said, something's just not right. Somebody's, retiring at halftime. Oh, and by the way, during COVID, remember when mental health was a big thing? But then all of a sudden, when COVID was over, we got back to the ignorance again. Because that's how I knew everybody was on trends. That's the problem. We do a lot of trends in this country where, we go along with what everybody's saying on social media, blah, 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 blah. And then when things calm down, nobody really tries to be on that train anymore. Mental health is a serious thing. And I knew that day that man was going through things. Now, do I know what happened to him? No, I can't speculate what happened to him. Did he do it himself? I don't know. Did somebody do it? I don't know. But all I know is that from a 35-year-old man who played at the peak of his life at cornerback to retire at the age of 29 in one of the great leagues in the world, something's wrong with that. So we got to be careful, folks, when people are retiring or people are, doing weird things, because let's say something like this happens with Antonio Brown in the next 5 years. I don't want to hear anybody say, oh, rest in peace, or, blah, blah, because you saw the signs. You saw the things out there. Everybody wants to be so famous on social media. I get it, folks. I've done memes, I've done things like that, but it's all been in good fun. Some people take it way too far, though. Sometimes you gotta be careful because some people are really good. These are people too, and they're going through things. So rest in peace to him. God bless his family, and hopefully hopefully things turn out better in the future for people who are going through things.
It's a good take right there. I like that. What do you think about that? Cool. Do you agree with that when it comes to the Vontae Davis?
Plus, he was a damn good cornerback who had over 20 interceptions as well. He was a 2-time Pro Bowl. Let me say that as well.
Oh, yeah, I was going to say that part, but appreciate that, Rob. So I'll just say, condolences to his family. We know this is Vernon Davis's younger brother, so condolences to Vernon. Sucks, man. They said the only thing that we've gotten so far is that there was no foul play involved. So I don't know how we can really read too much into that until we find out everything. But it does suck when a guy that's 35 years old that was a really good corner, like you said, he did retire. He was able to do it on his own terms. It did seem like, even at the moment in my mind, like this may be a slight cry for like help or some assistance, right? Maybe something happened on the field, maybe concussions were part of it or whatever, but we have to like take this into consideration. Like we have to look at these things and say, all right, what's happened, right? Like, a lot of people don't want to bring this up at all anymore, but like the Chris Benoit incident, Junior Seau, it's been several times. We can't say that this is one of those, but in the vein of those things that have happened before, I think we have to pay close attention when things that are outside of the ordinary happen. Quitting in the middle of a game, that's out of the ordinary. That's, someone should say, what's happening? What's going on? But again, we don't know. It could have been something related to a personal condition, heart condition, aneurysm in the brain. We don't know yet, right? But it's still sad to see this young man, be gone.
And I'm glad you brought that point up. I'm glad you brought that, because what we're seeing is, and I hate to say this, but I know people who have taken, after COVID happened, people got the shot, people got sick, people getting blood clots, heart conditions. You're seeing a record number of athletes falling out, dying, all that type of stuff. So, I mean, we're living in a world where we don't know what's going on. And then during that period in time, you know, you think about it, you retire, and then a couple years later, COVID happens, and then people are depression goes up. You know, the world is still not the same. The world is still in an imbalance. So, yeah, man. You know, the world's a pretty crazy place. So, he's got to be careful sometimes how we present things.
Yeah, I like both of your takes on that. I would have to say I hope we get a little bit more of an answer, a definitive answer on how this happened, as to why we didn't get a definitive answer on why he left like he did from the game. And when you think about, like you guys were saying, between mental health, or could it have been an aneurysm, like with what Christine was saying? If anybody watched the documentary yesterday, even though we kind of were talking about some wrestling comparisons, the Bray Wyatt documentary came out yesterday. I watched that, and you think about the fact that he passed away in his sleep, that he'd been wearing that like protective vest with the shock in it, you know, to help his heart. Could there have been a situation like that with Vontae Davis? We don't know. Apparently, there was no foul play suspected. But then when you also think, on the other hand, outside the box, when you think about what happened with like Antonio Brown leaving the game like he did, it was a different situation. You know, Vontae Davis, even though he left during the game, it was at least a little bit more respectful. There wasn't like some type of dramatic, you know, spiel out in the middle for the fans to see, kind of like when Antonio Brown was taking off his, you know, his pads and his jersey, throwing the stuff in the stands or whatever, his armbands and everything. There wasn't anything quite like that when he left. But at least, you know, there should be some type of clarity here to help out with getting us to understand mental health awareness, whether there's CTE involved, or like you said, if there was some type of way that he may have, you know, passed away to sleep due to something else. Who knows? But I think that in the coming months, potentially a year or so from now, we're going to get a little bit more news on what just happened with Vontae Davis.
And I got something for you guys. And this is why you got to be careful what you say in the past. Sometimes I've said stuff in the past before on camera that maybe I didn't like, maybe I wasn't too happy about, but you got to be careful. We got to eat what we say. This is from September 17, 2018, ESPN First Take. And you all can go back and watch the 7-minute video if you like. Stephen A. Smith calls Buffalo Bills cornerback Vontae Davis retirement move weak. Damian Woody says it was a punk move. And Victor Cruz says it's not the way you want your legacy to be fulfilled as an athlete. Be very careful what you say.
I'll say to those dudes is, man, a lot of scumbaggery comes from especially when it has to do with Screaming A. Smith. There are some good things he says. I'm not gonna act like everything he says is terrible, but there's a lot of scumbaggery and things that really shouldn't be said on air that get said on that show.
I mean, listen, he'll say that, but this is the same guy who gave Dana White a pass for slapping his wife. But hey,
more scumbaggery.
But
certain people can do whatever they want.
Yeah, but I won't go there today.
Yeah, and I mean, yeah, I was about to go in a direction, but I don't want to fuel that fire too much. But I definitely agree with what you're saying right there. Like, I can't, and even Sick Dicky said a few minutes ago, agreed at Robb Johnson. It's no different over here in Europe, especially after the COVID restrictions were removed. When you were talking about with COVID and Vontae Davis and the comparison with all that.
Yeah.
So definitely Sick agrees with you there on that one. Let's go ahead and take it into the next question. So the next thing that we have here on the scoop is NC State's DJ Burns' dominance during the March Madness has NFL teams eyeing him. Should he consider shifting towards football upon his departure from college, or pursue the NBA? Cool. I'm going to start this one off with you. With everything going on in March Madness right now, I kind of figured it'd be cool to kind of piggyback on that for a second. What do you think about this with NC State's dominating player here? Do you think that we should see him in the NFL, or should he keep on sticking with his NBA dreams?
Stick with your NBA dreams, right? I mean, you're an NBA talent, right? From what you're doing, you're showing people that you have a skill set that not everyone in the NBA has. You have the body, but you have that precision, that ability to move correctly. It's like he said himself. He grew up idolizing Hakeem Olajuwon, but he has a Zach Randolph body. So he's a guy that he can make a difference in the right situations. Of course, we all can, right? But you're going to go take the football pound, and, you know, we talk about CTE, careers ending early, guys just kind of wash it out. or are you going to go play basketball where you're in it, you're in the Final Four, you got 11 seed in the Final Four, you're one of the big reasons why. And do you think NBA scouts are not looking at him and saying, oh man, I can't wait till this guy comes out. This guy's big, physical, but he still got touch around the rim. He understands the game of basketball. Why would you leave that to go to a more physical game, to get physically abused and beat more, right? When you have basketball, now it's load management in the NBA. You play like 60 games a year. It's all good. You get all your money. Everything's good. You smooth selling. So why would you leave that to go to the NFL, in my opinion? Now, if the NFL was where you were playing in college, if you were playing both sports, that's one thing. But this is a guy who is a basketball player. So my advice to you would be stick to basketball, get that money, and revolutionize and kind of help some teams maybe want to bring it back to actually having a center that plays in the post and puts in some work.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with that, because it's like if you were to maybe showcase him as another position, like a big position like quarterback or running back or wide receiver, because he had experience in football, I would say that'd be one thing. But more than likely, based on his size, they're going to put him on a line somewhere. Like that's what I would see, because he's a bigger dude. Like, maybe on the defensive line, or, I don't see that putting him in a big position like an edge or anything, but you're going to be kind of in the trenches with what type of position you're playing, unless they decide to work him out with the tight end position. But more than likely, even though he is athletic, I'm just saying, based on DJ Burns' build, I would see them try to transition him more into an alignment of some sort. So, you always have heard the stories in the past about LeBron playing football, and he could have potentially, looked at things and if he had the aspects to play football. However, I don't think he would have had a successful career if he would have gone from the basketball to football. That's neither here nor there. But when it comes to DJ Burns, I think he needs to stick with basketball. What do you think there, Rob? You've heard us talk about him sticking with basketball. Do you agree, or do you think he should listen to these NFL offers?
Yeah, I'll just say real quick, LeBron's quarterbacks in high school were complete trash. It was horrible. But, I mean, no, seriously, you go back and look at the highlights. It was horrible. I ain't never seen like that in my life. But anyway, I think DJ Burns Jr. should go to the NBA. He has Zach Randolph body with a Shaq attitude. That's what you were talking about the other day. You go to the NFL, you risk not playing. He's 6'9", 260. He would have to lose at least 20, 25, 30 pounds to actually play a tight end position. He could be a fullback. He would have to gain another 25 to 30 to 40 pounds just to play on the offensive line, because 260 is not sustainable. He could play on the defensive line, but being a 6'9" and being that big on a defensive line, it's not sustainable. He'll get stood up easily. You look at different guys, like you look at VCU. The VCU player who went from
Noelle Cox.
Yeah. You look at Cox, who went from the college basketball to the NFL.
Indianapolis Colts.
Yeah, Indianapolis Colts. Yeah, but he had the body for that. This guy has the build to go to the NBA. Plus, as Cool was saying, you want to save your body. You don't want to go there and take that pounding and be out of sports by the time you're 32 years old. He can go. He has the agility. You saw what he did the other night against Duke. He's done it in the ACC. He's leading North Carolina State to the Final Four. If they somehow win the whole thing, he's definitely going in the top 20, top 15, in my opinion. Even if they don't win, he'll still go in possibly in the first round, maybe early second round. But for me, when you look at DJ Burns, the perfect spot for him is Golden State. Perfect spot for him. The perfect spot for him is Golden State. You're possibly going to be replacing the Draymond Green, or you can see how Draymond Green does things outside of the antics. I know he has the antics, but he's still a champion. Or a good place I would love to see him go would be a place like Memphis, or possibly or another good place, Houston, or here's the wild card, San Antonio. Put him with Wembanyama and let them do it.
Mocha. Yeah, I like that going to the Spurs.
Those are my choices, especially the Spurs, because there's a good chance they may get Trae Young very soon. So
who I would like for him to go? I know he's not going to go there, but I would like for him to come to Denver.
I'm sure you would. That size would probably work out over there too.
That would be sickening. I'm so serious. Like if you played Denver, they would probably average 70 points in the paint a game.
Yep.
They wouldn't be able to be stopped, especially if he got developed the right way. They wouldn't be stopped. They couldn't stop their team.
No, I think between your take and we all can definitely mutually agree that, you know, you need to, even though it's cool to get these entertaining offers, you need to stick with what got you this far, and that's the game of basketball. And I think that we can definitely all agree with that. Back to the NFL and a guy who kind of played for some scrub teams before going to Cool McCain's Eagles and pretty much resurrecting his career from 2022, 2023, you know, making the past 2 Pro Bowls, playing in a Super Bowl, you know, now taking the money and going to the Jets pretty much. And going to the Jets, and I'm going to start this one off with Cool McCain because he does have the experience with seeing this guy 17 games in a season for the past 2 years. Hassan Reddick is happy to be with the Jets and makes bold statements about the team's future. Has Reddick already put his foot in his mouth and thinks his new team, the Jets? How do you feel about that, Cool?
So first of all, Hassan Reddick is not happy to be at the Jets. Did you look at his face in the press conference? Did you look at how dejected he looked at the point? He's not happy to be with the Jets. What he did was he attempted to play hardball with the wrong organization. He wanted $20+ million a year. The Eagles are going to a 3-4 defense. He is a specialist at edge rushing. He's great at it, right? I'm not one of those people that's going to say because he's no longer with Philadelphia, he's not good at what he does. But what he does works best in a 4-3. The Eagles are now in a 3-4. So Philadelphia is one of those organizations. It doesn't matter if you are the god of your position. There's a cap to what you're going to get paid. He wanted more than what that was. He knew what they were willing to pay. He decided to play hardball. No, you're going to pay me this or I'm not going to play. So Philly said, okay. We went to the other guy and said, hey, you want to take a pay cut and stay here, or you want to be traded and go somewhere else? Sweat said, I'll stay here. I'll take the pay cut. So at that point, you start to become expendable. They still tried to work with you. So at the end of the day, moving you on saved us $14.5 million this season, and we don't have to pay you down the road. So great move for the team. Now, as far as him sticking his foot in his mouth, I understand why he hasn't talked a lot when he was in Philly because, yeah, there's kind of being, I want to show that I'm the guy, I want to show that I'm part of the team, I want to show that I believe in where I'm at. And then there's going a little bit too far. I do believe that he gave the team a list of teams and said, hey, these are the places I would like to go. And I think they sent him to the place, they gave them the best offer that he wanted to go. So I do believe they did that for him. But I think you come in, you talk about, hey, I want to get to know my team. You know, fresh start for me. You know, hopefully we can have a good impact this year and whatever. You don't go too far left when you're just getting there. You haven't even ingratiated yourself to your team yet. You haven't even kind of become one of the guys yet, and you're making these outlandish statements and claims that could affect how everybody else is looking at the team. So, honestly, you're making it look like Philadelphia made a good move in getting rid of you, even though you're talented, because verbal diarrhea sometimes is not a good thing. But again, it's one thing. I think, like I said, he didn't really want to leave, but he's getting his bag. And I'm not upset at any man for getting his bag, right? I'm an Eagles fan, die hard, but I'm not going to say, oh, I can't stand Hassan Reddick. He's not good. He's 30 now, and he's not going to be good anymore. That's not true. It just didn't work. What you wanted, how you were going to be used in this 3-4 that we're going to be switching to, you know, and the value that they place on positions versus what you wanted, it just didn't match up. And there's nothing wrong with that. You deserve to get paid what you feel like you want to get paid if somebody will give it to you. And a team deserves to say you're out of the price range that we're willing to pay. Because they just brought in Huff, who does essentially the same things, but has a little bit better ability to cover, you know, and tackle than he does outside of just, you know, being an edge rusher. So, I mean, I think it worked out well for everybody, but you don't come out in that first thing and start popping off too much. You got to be better than that, really.
A solid take, but before I go to Rob, I want to touch up on one thing with you, Cool, based on what this one article said, because I did read multiple articles on it, but because I was seeing similarities in the context is why I decided to bring this one on here today. He says he is happy to be with the Jets. I don't think people are ready for what's going to happen, quote unquote. So when he says that, is he saying not ready to watch what happened last year with them fall on their faces again? Or are we not ready to see what's going to happen as far as watching this ship trend upward? Do you think the Jets really, based on the addition of Hassan Reddick in this trade, have made that much more improvements in this offseason?
So I think that the Jets are going to be way better because of one factor only. Mr. Mushroom Man is going to be back. Right? That's the big difference. I'm not saying Reddick's not going to be good, because he will. He'll get sacks, right? He'll do that thing. But Mr. Mushroom Man is going to be the difference.
Okay.
That's the real difference. Mr. Mushroom Man. Aaron.
So, Rob, based on everything Cool just said and the news that we got from Hassan Reddick's, of course, recent entry into the Jets locker room and his opinions on that, whether he was being sarcastic or not, what do you think when it comes to this edition with Hassan Reddick and everything that we just said?
Well, I think that on let me make sure I get the date right here, guys. So I like to make sure I get my dates right. I think that on October 15th, 2023, Hassan Reddick did his job. He had 2.5 sacks against the Jets. Now, another guy went 28 of 45 for a touchdown and 3 picks. He didn't do his job. Also, when you look at the Seattle game, another guy didn't do his job in Jalen Hurts. Guys, I'm a Jalen Hurts fan all the way. And I really respect Jalen Hurts coming out of Alabama and Oklahoma. But this team, the Philadelphia Eagles, after they beat the Buffalo Bills, after Josh Allen did what Josh Allen usually does, throws duds at the worst time. Even though I like Josh Allen's game, he throws some very questionable throws at times. After that, they got shellacked by the 49ers. Dallas beat them. They lost to Drew Lock and the Seahawks in one of the worst Monday Night Football ever. Then they beat the Giants by 8. They lose to the Cardinals, who didn't even have a Hollywood Brown. They lost to the Giants 27-10. And then after beating the Buccaneers in the regular season, they go on the road in the playoffs and lose 32-9. And their center, who nobody criticized in the same week, went and celebrated with his brother. I would have been pissed even then, even if I knew I was retiring. But that goes to show you the dissension on this football team. You got A.J. Brown. You got Devontae Smith. You got Dallas Goedert. You had DeAndre Swift, who should have gotten the ball, guys, even more than what he got it. But they wanted to be a fancy offense, right? Hassan Reddick is going to a team that was 7-10 last year with Zach Wilson. Let me repeat myself. He's going to a team who was 7-10 with Zach Wilson. What the hell do you think is going to happen, Aaron Rodgers, even though he's 40 years old? Do I think the Jets have a better record than the Eagles? I don't know. But I know the Eagles have a lot of issues. Free agency is huge, but it doesn't always fix everything. Huff is a really good player, but that Jets defense had some issues last year as well. They weren't all world last year. Some guys got beat. So all I'm saying is that if I'm Hassan Reddick, I know that I struggled early in my career. You go to Carolina, you dominate. Whenever I watched an Eagles game last year, he's the man who stood out. He was a man amongst guys who weren't even that good on that defensive side of the ball, especially late in the year. And you get rid of this guy, and the coach Nick Sirianni, he's still there. So until they switch him out of there and they bring in Bill Belichick, as I wish they would have brought in Belichick this past offseason, because I think Bill Belichick in Philly is 3 to 4.
Let me interject.
3 to 4 Super Bowls guaranteed.
What you got?
Let me interject. We're never going to bring in a Bill Belichick. We're
Why?
never going to bring in a coach because we want lap dogs at the head coach position. That is why we will never get a Bill Belichick. We'll never get a Mike Vrabel. We want lap dogs. Doug Peterson got fired because he decided that he wanted to bite the hand that fed him, and they got him out of there. It doesn't matter that he just won a Super Bowl. So saying things like you want Bill.
So let me ask you, Jeffrey Lurie, does his ownership sometimes piss you off?
Actually, it doesn't, and I'll tell you why.
Okay.
He is what he is. He's been that. Andy Reid, he had say, but he never came out and spoke against the ownership the whole time he was there. Now, Andy Reid himself ticked me off because he had opportunities and he mismanaged the clock and blew games that we should have won in the NFC Championship game and in the Super Bowl.
Okay.
Right? We want to blame everybody but the head coach. How does the head coach get no blame? That doesn't make any sense. But we're not going to ever bring in a coach that is experienced somewhere else that is going to have expectations and demands. Now, the reason why Hassan Reddick is gone, of all the things I said, is true as well. He cannot run tackle that well. He cannot cover the pass whatsoever. The expectations in Vic Fangio's 3-4 are for those outside linebackers to at least have some ability to cover and be able to tackle on the run as well. These are not things that Hassan Reddick does well. What he does well, he is amazing at. But he does not fit what we're doing, so he was going to be moved.
But does overall, do you think this? So do you think that it hurts Philadelphia, or do you think that it gives them a better chance of being a better defense?
Along with the other moves that Philadelphia is making, along with the draft, and along with bringing in a veteran guy who is going to stabilize the defense, and no one's going to try to make him the scapegoat when he's not the scapegoat 8 or 9 games into the season, this defense is going to be a lot better this year. And let's not forget, one of the big off-season additions for the Philadelphia Eagles is reuniting with what a lot of people have called, and rightfully so, the heart and soul of the defense that got us to the Super Bowl, Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. That's a big pickup for Philadelphia. That may not be a big pickup for anybody else.
True.
But for Philadelphia, that's a big pickup because of what he was able to do when he was there.
But
we also got Isaiah Rodgers. He's coming back.
Okay.
He's going to be able to help solidify the corner position. Ringo and them finally got the ability to get in the game and play some. We saw some possibilities from them. Bradbury needs to be traded, or at least his amount of play cut down. That's going to help the secondary. Safeties have been brought in. A plethora of linebackers. We were playing guys at linebacker last year that should have been in the UFL on the bench, starting, because that's all we had. So these things are being fixed, right? Okay. So Hassan Reddick is going to be a loss. I'm not going to act like you're not going to miss what Hassan Reddick brought. But if you can get more versatile guys in and save money, that is a long-term win.
Okay, so I know we got to get to the next topic soon, but here's the thing I want to ask. Vic Fangio is 3-1 versus Dallas. He dominates Dallas every time he plays them. Like, every time he plays Dallas, he dominates them. And do you think that there is some rumblings in Philadelphia or in the organization, in your opinion, if this offense does not start out the way it needs to start out, or this team, but the defense plays well, could Vic Fangio, with his hardcore attitude, he fits Philly style? I feel like he fits Philly style.
I know where you're going. They'll definitely be head coach.
Do you think that he can move in and be the head coach if the Eagles start out 0-2, 0-3, 0-4? If they're not going to start out that, but I'm just saying if there's a disaster that happens.
No.
Too much of a strong personality?
Yes. Okay. So here's the thing. Kellen Moore is going to get probably at least a full season, right? Now, I want everybody to make y'all aware of something that some people may or may not know. Kellen Moore is a Nick Sirianni hire. Nick Sirianni pushed and prodded for this guy. So if the offense doesn't do well this coming season, I could see both of those guys getting the boot and us getting an interim head coach for the rest of the season, another coordinator, and then hiring another lapdog next offseason. But I don't think that's going to happen.
Everybody knows I'm not a Sam Howell guy, right? But I think Eric Bieniemy did wonders with that guy who I think he's average, but he still made him look really good in Washington this year.
He did.
Outside of a few bad games by the defense or some other things, he actually looked pretty decent. Why would you bring in Kellen Moore, who did an atrocious job in Los Angeles, even when Justin Herbert was healthy? And they still had some receivers. See, there's no excuses for Justin Herbert, in my opinion, because if you're going to criticize everybody else gets paid, he got paid too. That offense did not look good. So I don't understand why the Eagles brought him in. I don't get it.
Before we go to the next topic, I do want to say that Kellen Moore, unless I'm wrong here, was hired before Eric Bieniemy was let go from the Commanders. Like, because they held on to Eric Bieniemy a little bit too long.
It wouldn't have mattered.
You don't think so? If they would have let him go back when they let go of Rivera, you don't think that would have been enough time for him to?
They're not going to.
The writing was on the wall.
Yeah, they weren't going to bring Eric Bieniemy in any capacity.
Because it would have scared the hell out of Nick Sirianni. You can't bring a threat in Nick Sirianni. You can't.
Are you talking about the Eagles? Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
And Nick Sirianni is a very paranoid dude, man.
Yes, he is. And you got to think about this too. Bieniemy, another strong-willed personality. He had players running to the coach like, "Oh, he's making us work too hard. You know, he's yelling at us, hurting our feelings." That's not going to work. No, I'm seriously. That's not going to work when your coach is a lapdog.
You know what?
The best thing that happened this offseason in Philadelphia.
You're right.
Yeah.
Him and AJ Brown would have clashed, and it would have been. Oh God, you're right.
Yeah. So those things are not going to happen because of the continuity of the team and the fact that the best thing that the Eagles did was they basically told Nick Sirianni to go be a cheerleader and hype up the locker room. You can have a little bit of input. You can go talk to the coaches, but don't you dare try to tell them what plays to run and stuff like that, because you had your chance, and 2 times in 3 years you sucked.
Yeah, you said it like me. I love it. Cool. You said you sucked. I love it. That was great. But before we move to the next topic, sticking with this, even Ike says that he wants Reddick back in Carolina so we can whoop that trick.
I mean, I get it, but
you run a 4-3?
Who wants to go to Carolina right now?
Nobody. Absolutely.
Nobody.
I mean,
didn't Clowney? Wasn't it Clowney that went?
With that owner, I mean, listen. Now I will say this: that could work. Put him on the other side, but I will say this as well. Everywhere Clowney's gone in the last few years, they've won. So I mean, who knows? Carolina might shock us this year.
Yeah, Clowney did go back. That's basically a homecoming for Jadeveon Clowney to go back there. But he's been going and taking the money. I mean, that's no matter where he's went. He
was in the AFC Championship game last year, and he did have an impact. He did have an impact. Listen, he did have an impact on that Ravens team. And a year before he was in Cleveland, he did impact that defense. So I mean, listen, man, he's on the Clowney tour around the NFL, making that $10 million, just getting in different uniforms. But hey, he's still a great player.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Why not?
Definitely solid take with that, guy. So moving in with the other topic that sticks within the NFC East, the Dallas Cowboys' quiet offseason has been concerning to most outside the organization. Are you buying that their front office truly believes they can compete with what they have in 2024? Based on the things that you were saying earlier in the show, Rob, I'm going to start this off with you. What are your thoughts when it comes to this topic right here?
Well, when you look at what they lost, the biggest loss they had, it wasn't Tyler Biadasz, because like I can make a case that Biadasz is a decent center, but he can be exposed at times. Sometimes his blocking schemes aren't that great. So I can say good luck to him in Washington. Plus he gets injured sometimes. He has ankle injuries. The biggest loss for Dallas, and then you look at Dante Fowler. They lost him. Who else did they lose? You got Stephon Gilmore, who's still out there, but he's like 32, 33 now. And I like Stephon Gilmore. He did a great job last year, but his speed has diminished. The Cowboys' biggest loss was Dorrance Armstrong to Washington. Armstrong is possibly going to be a Pro Bowler in Washington because he is really good, but they mostly lost backups. Do I think Dallas will win a Super Bowl this year? Hell no. Hell no, they're not winning the Super Bowl this year. Do I think they can win the East? Possibly. Because when I look at the other teams, I still have Dak was the best quarterback in the NFC East last year. He got to the playoffs. He still threw for 400 yards, besides the fact that he had 27-0 deficit against the Packers. He didn't give up. That's one thing I say about the Cowboys. They did not give up in that game. They sucked, but they, and we got to give credit to the Green Bay Packers. But in my opinion, what the Cowboys do best every year is they do what they do and they don't listen to the outside noise. You guys remember in the draft when everybody, including people like Skip Bayless, wanted them to draft Johnny Manziel, and they ended up picking Zach Martin? That was a very intelligent decision. The thing is, guys, there's so many good players, not only from the UFL. You got cuts coming. You still got guys like Kareem Hunters who are still free agents. You got so many different guys who are still free agents. You don't need to spend all this money in the first week because it guarantees you nothing. It comes back to that team, guys, the Los Angeles Chargers. How many championships have they won since they broke the bank? 0. When the Patriots broke the bank, how many? And they gave Mac. And remember when everybody said Mac Jones is coming in? They put all these weapons around him, and he's got all these. He's got all this. 0. So spending in free agency don't mean anything if you cannot be cohesive with your new team. It means nothing if you come in and you can't connect with the system, the fans, etc. So what I'm saying is Dallas is doing a smart thing. Plus, guys, this is one of the best drafts we've seen in a long time. Dallas drafts. So do I see them win the Super Bowl? No, they're not winning the Super Bowl. They're not going to the Super Bowl. Do I see them possibly getting to the second round of playoffs and getting beat by either the 49ers or the Rams or possibly the Eagles? Yeah, but they're not winning the Super Bowl. But Jerry does things his way. That's why they've won 12 games. Here's the facts of the matter, guys. They don't perform well in the playoffs. But 12 wins the last 3 years is 12 wins. It's tied with the Kansas City Chiefs. The only difference is they have Patrick Mahomes and Dallas doesn't. They have Andy Reid and the Cowboys don't. And Mike McCarthy, for all the flack he gets, he's still a Super Bowl winning head coach. He's got as many championships as Mike Tomlin.
Solid take. Solid take.
Just being honest.
But Tyrone Alizé McDummy is saying otherwise.
Ain't nobody calling me, texting me, paging me, asking me, are you still involved? Delete!
Cool McCain, how do you feel about all
They
this?
still won 12 games. I mean, I don't understand.
So I want to say Andy Reid and Mahomes and the Chiefs also have the referees. So that also makes a big difference. I'm going to take every opportunity. I'm going to take every opportunity. I'm going to take every opportunity to point out the truth. And if people don't want to acknowledge the truth, that is on you and your soul, not mine. I don't care.
Acknowledge me.
And I will say it. But I actually do agree with Rob. I think people are saying too soon, like, oh, Dallas hasn't went out and spent all their money and drafted a bunch of people 2 or 3 weeks of the free agency, so they're not going to be a good team next year. You still got the draft. You still have people that are going to be there until the end. You're going to have people get cut from other teams because of how talented they are. I think Dallas is doing something very intelligent, and it's kind of weird for me to say this about Dallas, but they're being very intelligent. They're saying, you know what? We've kind of done to make a splash, try to grab this, try to grab that. What we're going to do this time is we're going to take our time. We're going to see how the market sets for some of these guys after those, what people consider top tier free agents are gone. Guys that can come into our team, make a difference, right? Like you talk about a guy like Kareem Hunt. Maybe you don't want him as an every down running back, but maybe you draft a running back and then you have Kareem Hunt as well. So maybe have that mixture there, right? There's going to be a lot of solid wide receivers that you'll be able to get in this draft. There's going to be people in a lot of positions. This is, like Rob said, a very deep draft. So why not see what you can get through the draft, right, that you can have on rookie contracts? And then if you need to fill other pieces, you can still do that in free agency. You can still do that after cut dates. You have a long time between now and the start of the regular season. Just because you're talking about teams like the Eagles and the Giants and whoever you feel like has won free agency so far, they haven't played a game with those guys. They haven't gelled as a unit. You haven't seen them do anything on the field yet. You haven't seen them have one practice, right? So it's cute. It's great to talk about the names and how they feel great on one team, but gelling, cut day, execution, that's all the things that really matter.
Yeah, I mean, you look at some of the games, like you look at some of the guys, like you look at Justin Simmons, he's a free agent. Stephon Gilmore, Steve Nelson, Connor Williams, Xavier Howard, Mekhi Becton. I mean, Julian Blackman, even a wide receiver in Odell Beckham who could be your third or fourth guy. You don't need to be your starter.
Right.
You look at Calais Campbell. I mean, you have so many different guys, and that's what I'm saying, guys. It's like And at the end of the day, the last time I checked, CeeDee Lamb had 130 plus receptions last year, and they got rid of Michael Gallup. So they can draft a guy and put him with CeeDee Lamb. They got a really good tight end. They're going to build the offense. Let me tell you like this. If you are an NFL team and your offensive line sucks in 2024, it's because you can't scout. The draft is so deep with offensive linemen. It is ridiculous. They've got so many good defensive linemen. And the thing is that I'm looking at the cornerback out of Iowa who could possibly be drafted by the Cowboys. The Cowboys are going to draft offensive linemen, in my opinion. They're going to draft some offensive linemen. When you look at Tyron Smith, he's a really great player. He's going to be a Hall of Famer one day, but he's at the age where he gives up some speed to some of these pass rushers, which is going to be a little bit of an issue in the AFC East when you have someone's really good pass rushers. So again, I think that be smart. Like we live in a world now where we want everything to be instant. The Kansas, and I go back to Kansas City Chiefs, their biggest splash was what? Re-signing Mr. Jones and signing Hollywood Brown. It's not about what they're talking about on ESPN, because listen, they need ratings. Like we all need ratings, but they need ratings. They need something to pop every morning because they're doing a show 5 days a week. Now, if I was producing a show like that, I would be talking about the Cowboys as well, producing and talking about all this crazy content. I would try to incorporate some other things, but they have to sell a TV show and a product. This is real life, okay? This is real sports. This is gridiron news. This is real sports, okay? And the Cowboys will be just fine. Like I said, are they going to win a Super Bowl? No, because Dak Prescott is not that type of guy. He's going to be really good. He's going to take you to the playoffs, but he's not going to win a championship, in my opinion. He's not that type of quarterback. He's going to put up really good numbers. But at the same time, I have to warn Cowboys fans, you keep talking about get rid of him, reduce to do that. You remember when Troy Aikman retired? Remember the early 2000s when the Eagles were dominating? Remember when the Giants were dominating? Remember when the Commanders should have been going to Super Bowls because they were really good. There were some really good Commanders teams who really should have went to the Super Bowl. But the Tampa Bay game, you had the Tampa Bay game. I'm giving them credit.
I saw that, Drew. I saw that.
I'm giving them credit. I'm giving them credit. Seriously. I'm giving the Commanders credit. The Commanders, when you look back at the '99 season when they played Tampa Bay, they should have been a team in the NFC Championship game. But there were some screwy calls, etc. Go back to the RG3 years. That team I feel like should have gone further. But just unfortunate circumstances. That's what I'm saying. The Cowboys have had some dark times. The Cowboys have had some really, really dark times. And in those times, the Eagles and Commanders and Giants were better. And like I said, I'm giving the Commanders credit. The Commanders had some really good teams over the years.
We can't hear you, Drew.
Even though there has been talks, because I accidentally like this thing. If you, yeah, it messed me up. But anyway, going back to what I was saying, even though you have had people saying how your owner has interfered with transactions in the past, maybe bringing in people you shouldn't or letting go of people that you should or whatever the case may be, the owner in Washington hurt that franchise more than Jerry has ever hurt the Cowboys. So regardless of the talent that you bring in, no matter how much money you throw at them, it's the structure from the top that affects everything trickling down. Because even last year, even though the Commanders, in my opinion, underperformed based on what they had in front of them, we still saw much as things go in more of a positive direction for that franchise than we had seen in the past 5 to 6 years. So
was it really positive last year?
The record, you can't look at the record and say, based on what I saw, there was a lot more positive energy And you can admit it too from seeing things based on some of our colleagues have covered in the locker room over there. Like the energy was a lot more positive. The things that were trickling down because of what was going on with the coaching, with Ron Rivera, all that we knew needed to disperse in order for us to get a true reset with the organization. I even said back then on the early editions of Commander's Gridiron Report that we can't really judge so much based on the 2023 season because we're going to see a true reset in 2024, and I still stick by that. I still think that they kind of screwed over Sam Howell a little bit, but we'll get into that more later. Now that we've gotten through the Cowboys, through here, was there anything else you guys wanted to add?
I just wanted to say real quickly that, like I said, both teams have had talent over the years. I just think that there's been a lot of excuses, man. I mean, think about it. The Eagles won a championship. They've been in a Super Bowl. They had circumstances. They lost their starting quarterback. They had Nick Foles. They beat the Patriots. I just think there's been a lot of look, man. Just like there's been a lot of excuses. Both teams, especially Cowboys. The Cowboys have had a lot of talent over the years. They made a lot of excuses. And guess what? Sometimes there are teams that are just better than them that didn't get credit. Like the Green Bay Packers. The Green Bay Packers just didn't get credit because they're a young, up-and-coming team who's going to be winning for a very long time. So I just think sometimes, man, we give excuses to these teams. It's got to stop. It's got to stop.
I mean, we got to give our hats off. I mean, not as much to the Giants, even though they went to 2 Super Bowls and won 2. We got to give our hats off truly to Cool McCain and his Eagles because they've been to 3 Super Bowls in the past 20 years. I mean, winning 1 is still better than winning none, and you won your first championship in your franchise history since the Super Bowl era has been around. So, the NFC East is still no slouch because they've had 5 out of the past 20 years, 5 times we've seen an NFC team in the Super Bowl.
I mean,
we're the only division that every team has won a Super Bowl.
Look at 2020. I mean, look at 2020. The damn Commanders, even though the record wasn't good in the regular season, they take the champions to the brink. 31-23 with a backup quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
And the year before last, they could have made the playoffs if Ron Rivera had realized they were still in the play.
No. I was there. Listen to me. I was there covering the game. That game still irks me to this day because if they would have put in somebody else instead of Carson Wentz, he was a lame duck quarterback at that time. They had a chance to make the playoffs. So what I'm saying is that sometimes things get in the way. But again, the Dallas Cowboys will be just fine. And again, I was just giving the Commanders credit because I think that they have had better teams than people gave them credit for over the years. They just had some bad luck. Look how they played the Eagles this past year. The Commanders could have made the playoffs this year. It's just they had bad luck in some games. The Eagles, they should have beat the Eagles twice. They should have beaten Seattle. I mean, I'm just saying, I'm giving them credit. The team has had talent over the years. That's all I'm saying.
And they did have a different vibe. I go every year to an Eagles game. One of my good friends, when they play the Eagles in Maryland, I go to that game every year, and you could feel the vibe was different, right? Like the fans were more excited. The sideline, they looked more like hyped and energized. It just felt like a different vibe.
But they're still picking number 2. But they're still picking number 2. That's the problem. Listen, I get it, man.
Oh, yeah.
That's the problem. It's like when you're at a job, right? And they change bosses. And it's like, oh man, everything's happy now, but do you get the same results? My thing is that I think that the Commander/Redskins, whatever you want to call them, we can call Cowboys America's team. We can say that this team or that team. That is the hallmark franchise of the National Football League. Back in the days, they came on national TV all the time. That team is one of the hallmark franchise National Football League. When that team is good, it makes the NFL better. So,
and then, like my man Stephen A. Smith always say, Chocolate City.
Yeah, I mean, when Washington is playing at its peak, and you have Dallas playing at its peak, and you have the Eagles and the Giants, that's the best division in football, point blank period. That's the best football to watch. End of story.
Who's giving them the business?
I felt like that was fitting for that one.
Just being honest, it's one of the best. It's one of the best divisions in football.
To stick within that division for a player in there, and to kind of go back to the Eagles for a moment, the Saquon Barkley admits to eyeing the Texans prior to signing with the Eagles in free agency. Should the Eagles be concerned with his comments or appreciate his honesty? Cool McCain, how do you feel about this? Going back to you, with you knowing more knowledge on the Eagles than any of us, based on the comments here coming out from Saquon this past week's interview, what do you think about that?
Just appreciate it and be honest. I mean, at the end of the day, you're a free agent. For the first time in your career, you can control where you go play it. Nobody's looking at one team. They can tell you that in these press conferences, they are telling you a bald-faced lie. They're not looking at one team. They have multiple teams. Like, hey, if I was on this team with what they have, you know what I'm saying, what it sounds like they're bringing in, I can make a big difference. And that's okay to have more than one team that you're eyeing. It's okay for the Texans to be your first choice. But the Eagles were your last choice. The Eagles are the ones that you put pen to paper for and said, I'm coming to play for you. The Eagles are the one that you went to even knowing you were going to get backlash from fans, from people like Tiki Barber who shouldn't even be talking, and things like that. So you knew that was coming. You still came to the Eagles. So I'm fine with you having a desire at some point to go to Houston because CJ Stroud's there, right? Schultz is there. Like that's a good team. So why not want to look at other good teams and say, hey, I can make a big difference on this team as well? My only concern with Saquon Barkley is him staying healthy. But I do acknowledge that he's no longer playing on that garbage Giants field. So hopefully only having to play maybe one game on that a year, maybe two if somehow they're the higher seed in the playoffs and we're both in the playoffs, can help him, stay healthier. So we'll see about that, but I don't have a problem with it at all. I feel like I respect the honesty.
I agree with that. I agree with his honesty. I accept his honesty and would appreciate it. And yes, you're right. Like you don't really go into an off season especially after being with one team your whole career so far and look at one team. But I did find his comments about, how things would have meshed with Houston and CJ Stroud. I mean, the biggest thing they really need to upgrade on, and even though they played very well last year, they definitely need a little bit more of an impact at the running back position because it would take even more pressure off of CJ Stroud. I think that would have fit really well. I am concerned, though, with Kelsey retiring, Lane Johnson getting older. He's like 33 years old. He's pretty close to retirement as well. Your offensive line is going to be definitely drastically shifting here soon. However, I don't think that even with the shifts, you're going to be nearly as bad as, say, the Jets' offensive line with what we've seen them play the past couple of years. Your Eagles are not going to fall that far down. But I do think that you are going to go through a little bit of growing pains, at least through the first few weeks of the season, if we don't see it in what you would call it preseason, because of Jason Kelsey, not just because of what he did at the center position, but because of the leadership that he brought to that offensive line. He was a staple to that line for over a decade. That may affect Saquon's production a little bit, but I don't think it's going to hinder it but so much because he was only playing but was so much in New York anyway. So based on what you said and based on what I said, Rob, what are your thoughts when it comes to Saquon and his comments, early on in his Eagles career?
I really don't care. Why does it matter? He's with the Eagles. They signed him. They gave him the contract. I thought that he should have gone to Houston. Because in Houston there's a lot less pressure than it is in Philadelphia.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like them getting rid of DeAndre Swift. I think that DeAndre Swift could have got a lot more carries and been a lot more successful if they would have given him more opportunities, in my opinion. They got too cute last year.
1,000,000% agree.
They got too cute last year. They threw the ball way too much. Nick Sirianni was trying to prove a point instead of winning football games. Saquon Barkley gets hurt a lot, guys. Saquon Barkley was the number 2 overall pick coming out of Penn State in 2017, 2018. And he's a little bit of a company man at times. That's not going to work in Philadelphia. He's going to have to get that edge because if he goes, I think he's like 0-10 against Dallas. You can't do that in Philadelphia. You cannot have mediocre games. And even though they said that he had a mediocre quarterback in Daniel Jones, they still paid Daniel Jones. So whether we call him mediocre or not, the man still got paid. They still believed in Matt and Jones before they paid you.
Mm-hmm.
So what does that say? You're about to turn 27 years old. As we continue to say, running backs and players in the NFL now, when they turn 27, now it's almost like they're 35. because they take such a pounding in college, so many games. He's taking so much of a pounding in New York. But the last game of the season, he dominated the Eagles. Absolutely dominated. And I think that was the decision the Eagles made. Hey, this guy dominates. Let's bring him in. Let's see what he can do for us. But I'm going to bring up one name, and I really want people to be careful. DeMarco Murray.
Oh.
Be very careful, because it system matters. You go from one system to the next. You don't know how things are going to play out. Do I think Saquon is going to be good in Philadelphia? Let me put it to you like this. Even though I'm a long-term Cowboys fan, as a media journalist person I am, I hope he does great.
So you
because
think
I want everybody to have success.
So
but
you think you think 10 seasons later they made the same mistake like they did in 2015? You think that they brought another Cowboys player and he's going to be a scrub? I don't think it's going to be quite like that.
No, it's
that's a gut punch.
Listen, guys. You have to understand something about DeMarco Murray, and let's go back to this. DeMarco Murray today is 36 years old. It's not about that, guys. It's about fit. It's about where do you fit.
Yeah, Saquon, he was never a good fit.
Saquon for me fit very well in New York because he has that type of personality. He has a type of personality where he is the guy that would be in New York. I don't know if he fits Philadelphia's personality, even though he went to Penn State. I mean, DeMarco Murray ran a 4.3, just like Saquon. He ran a 4.344. If you look at DeMarco Murray's numbers, right? He in Dallas in 2014, he had 392 carries for 1,845 yards and 13 touchdowns. This was his next season in Philadelphia. 16 games. What was it? No, I'm sorry. 15 games, 193 attempts for 702 yards, 6 touchdowns. Then he went to Tennessee the next 2 years and barely got over 400 yards. All I'm saying, guys, is this. Saquon Barkley's numbers, even though the quarterbacks changed, he only had 962 yards last year. And I know he was hurt, but you look at some of the great historical running backs of all time. Barry Sanders has some of the most trash quarterbacks and offensive linemen we've ever seen. He still got it done. So what happens if Jalen Hurts gets hurt? What if Jalen Hurts is having one of those games where he's throwing a touchdown, 4 interceptions? Can Saquon Barkley make the difference? I hope he can, because I want him to do well, and I don't want any player to stink the joint up. I'm just bringing up the facts, guys. DeMarco Murray had 1,800 yards in one season. Saquon's never been close to that in his career. So now he has the offensive line. He's got the quarterback and receivers. Cool. There's no excuse. Brother, to be honest with you, if he doesn't go for at least 1,600 yards, 14 touchdowns, it's a disappointment. There's no excuses, cool. He's got to get it done. He's got to get it done. There's no more excuses. There's no more Dale Jones. There's no more Giants feel. He's got to get it done. And if he has a subpar season, brother, then we're going to have to question him. And we're going to have to say, was it really him or was it really the Giants? He's got to get it done, and Nick Sirianni is going to have to make sure he gets that guy the ball. Period. End of story.
Oh, Nick has nothing to do with the offense now. Kellen Moore is going to have to make sure he gets that guy the ball.
But that's the problem. If you remember Kellen Moore, at times he did not run the football like he should have.
I agree, and that's why
that's what I'm concerned about.
I don't think he'll get 16.
Can call a stupid offense at times, bro.
12.
Yeah,
but I think he might get about 12. He may get 16 total yards if we're counting. Hopefully, they use him in the passing game some for the underneath routes.
But why would you bring in a guy like Kellen Moore who has that track record? I mean, look at what he did in Dallas. Yeah, he had Zeke Elliott.
That's who Nick wanted.
But bro,
that's the one guy that Nick championed.
There were times when the Cowboys would throw the football and we're like, hey, you need to run the football here. Or the Chargers last year. Remember, they put up a lot of points. Remember, they went to
concerns that you do with Kellen
Remember,
Moore.
They went to overtime against the what was it? The Miami Dolphins didn't do their thing, and then they played the Colts. They screwed that possession up, lost to them in overtime with Gardner Minshew. I'm telling you, man, like they're gonna have, if they play this smartly, there's no reason the Eagles should not win at least 13 to 14 games, depending on how that defense does. But if they come into the season and they let Kellen Moore do Kellen Moore stupid things, bro, this team could win 8-9 games easily because we have to see it. And Saquon's not used to winning. And I will say this is my last point. This is my last point. I am always concerned about Penn State running backs. They run those guys into the freaking ground. And y'all know you watch Penn State football. They run them dudes to the ground. Larry Johnson, for example, had a few good years. Boom, nosedive. Just being honest. Just being honest.
Yeah, Miles Sanders didn't keep him because
and it's not me. And it's not me as a Cowboys fan. This is me as an honest journalist who is 1,000% unbiased. I keep it 1,000% real. I have concerns. But if they do what they're supposed to do, this team should not. You got Devontae Smith. You got AJ Brown. They brought in some other decent receivers. Devontae Parker. You still
Paris
got
Campbell.
the draft. Exactly. You still got the draft. Look at these defenses across the NFC East. The Giants don't have any real secondary help. The Commanders are still going to build it, even though the Commanders are building that defensive line. That defensive line with Dorrance Armstrong is going to be sick. But then you look at Cowboys. Cowboys don't really have a great secondary right now, unless they bring somebody on built to the draft. So the Eagles got to get this right. To me, for the Eagles, it's Super Bowl or bust. End story. They're the best team in the NFC. They should be the best team in the NFC East on paper. But again, guys, that's paper.
Absolutely. And it's going to be interesting to see how things pan out for that team in this upcoming season. Moving on to our last topic here in the Gridiron Scoop, the DC Defenders offensive lineman Gene Delance ejected from the first game for spitting on opposing player. What type of punishment should we expect to receive for him for this infraction? Rob, what do you think when it comes to that?
I don't know, because I just saw an NHL player throw a stick at a referee and get 3 games. So I don't know. You guys tell me. I don't know. I mean, maybe you should get a game and a fine, but it seems like they're kind of loosened off on the punishment these days. I mean, you shouldn't spill on the player, so he's lucky that guy doesn't come and knock him out or something. So I'm being serious when I say that. You don't spit on another man or a woman, etc. That's just disgusting. But I would expect a game and maybe a hefty fine, maybe a game or 2 games hefty fine.
Now, when it comes to this, we haven't really seen a huge amount of punishments coming down in the XFL, the USFL, and now them reincarnated, merging into the UFL. So when it comes to that, thinking about things, cool, what do you think? Rob's kind of on the fence with it, not too sure. I'll give my take after, you give yours. But when it comes to this, it's disrespectful. It's unsportsmanlike. What do you think when it comes to the punishment he should receive for this?
So I'm going to go with what I think he will receive, not what I think he should receive. I think he's going to get a fine and a slap on the wrist. Because I think they're more focused on, the entertainment value, trying to have the best guys out there every week for every team to try to compete for ratings and everything else. So I think he's going to get a fine, maybe like a warning, like, hey, if this happens again, you're going to get in real trouble, buddy, type of situation. Unfortunately, he probably should get suspended, but I don't think he will. Because like I said, it's more than just what he did, but it's disrespectful. But what I will say is, if the other guy had ripped his helmet off and punched him in the face, he shouldn't get suspended. She shouldn't get suspended because you don't spill another man.
Exactly. And I think what your take is very close to what I was going to say. I was going to at least throw in a 1-game suspension, but you didn't go as far with that. You're basically just, a fine and a slap on the wrist. It's game 1. You're probably getting the jitters out a little bit. There's emotions flying. Some words were probably said that shouldn't have been said because, of course, there is trash talk on both sides of the ball. So somebody probably got their feelings hurt. In this case, being Delance with whatever was said, and ends up doing what he's doing. I think that on top of this, to send a message to keep things at a little bit more of a respectful pace throughout the entirety of this game, especially if they want to evolve this game at some point a little bit more than what they're at now with just 8 teams and make it bigger. Of course, we got to get more viewership and more eyes on the game and more sponsorship money, I guess, before we can evolve that part of the game. in this realm, even though it is like the minor leagues of football right now in the eyes of most, you still have to set the tone. If this is literally a springboard to get to the next level, being the NFL, you have to present yourself in a light that the NFL is going to want to bring you in. It's like you are your own walking billboard. It's still the same thing as it's been in the past 50 years, especially when it comes to the game of football and professional sports. Like, if you want to be able to give them some type of portfolio so they can hire you and bring you on, you have to have tape. You have to have positive footage. And nobody's really looking at the offensive linemen to a T until they make mistakes. When they make mistakes, they're quicker to get called out on for their mistakes, and especially in situations like this when they're doing disrespectful things that potentially hurt the game. So regardless if it's an emotion that you react in the moment, if you're going to do that in the field, you're going to do that in a boardroom or on the street somewhere. Like, that's just the way that people think. Like, they don't want to bring that type of problem on. So when I think about that, I agree with everything that you just said. Cool. Even you, Rob, but at the same time, I feel like there has to be a message passed down, especially with this happening in the first game of the season. If this was game 4, game 5, a little bit later in the season, after some time has gone on, then I could see, maybe give him a slap on the wrist, because the wanes and the wear and tear of the season at that point, you could have a little bit more of an argument for that. But because this is week 1, I can only say but so much, and that's where my take is on this. And before we go to our commercial break, we're going to go ahead and take our grand champ time to announce who we feel is our MVP from this past week.
Total Football Talk.
That's right. It's grand champ time. Time to pick our dog of the week and who our MVP of this past weekend in the UFL was. Rob, let's start this off with you. Who was your dog of the week?
I have to go back to Jake Bates, 64-yard field goal. What else there to say? 64-yard field goal, wins the game, gets eyes on the league. You also have to go to Kia Nkoyu, 11 tackles, 8 solo. I mean, that's huge. So I have to give it to those two guys.
Oh, Kai Nakua, Puka Nakua's brother.
Kai Nakua. Yeah, I got to give it to him. 11 tackles, 8 solo, plus a 64-yard field goal from Jake Bates. Yeah, those are my guys.
Okay, I can respect that. Cool. What is your thought on the dog of the week pick? Do you agree with Rob with that? Are you going to go with the kicker here, or do you have somebody else in mind as your dog of the week? Mute.
I have somebody else in mind, but that is, a good pick. I'm going to go with Chase Garbers, 158 passing yards, 2 touchdowns, and also a rushing touchdown. So a lot to help his team, within the game. So I like what he did. I'm always a little bit biased to the guys who can score with their legs too, just because you add another dimension. So if you're on a team that doesn't have as good a running game as you want, the quarterback can pick up the slack in needed situations.
Great choice there. I definitely like it. And I was honestly looking at the kicker as well with what Rob had picked, but I'm going to go a little bit different considering he just picked the kicker, and I want to go with somebody a little bit different. At first I was thinking Vinny Papali because of what he did to contribute towards that victory over there for his team being the Showboats, and mainly because he's had, history in the past with injuries. Like, he hasn't been the healthiest going even back to college. So it's affected him in his transition to professional football. But based on what he has done in taking over a franchise that, again, I was saying earlier on with needing to reestablishing an identity, I'm going to give this one this week to the head coach of the San Antonio Brahmas and Wade Phillips, because looking at what his coaching career was like last year in the in the XFL, You look at his time with the Houston Roughnecks, then transitioning over to the San Antonio Brahmas, who definitely underperformed last year with what the expectations were with having a 2-time Super Bowl winning wide receiver, and Hines Ward as their head coach. You come in, you not only win in week 1, but you win decisively over a team that was just in the XFL championship with a 9-1 record. So when I put all that in perspective, I think that leadership is the biggest key to why the Brahmas not only won, but won in the way that they did. They're calling trick plays with the punter throwing that 40-yard dime. They're getting, great play out of their defense too, which Wade is definitely, defensive minded, getting the 4 sacks and the interceptions for the defense, as well as Darius Phillips with that 88-yard interception return, nearly taking it to the house. All of this, I feel like, has a big part on the leadership, and leadership is key. You guys were saying it with different things we were talking about earlier, that, the structure of the organization, the foundation, it's all key to success. Because if you have a terrible front office, 9 times out of 10, unless you just have that much talent on the team, you're not going to do much within the season. So for that, I got to give the credit to Wade Phillips on this. And that is who I'm picking for my dog of the week. With that being said, guys, we're going to take a quick commercial break. And when we come back, we're going to get towards the wrapping of the show, as we have a few more things to discuss before we get on out of here. We'll see you on the other side of this commercial break.
Coming up next, the featured attractions. This is Total Football Talk. Comey Media Incorporated. Creating content magic in the real world.
Little right here. Look at the inside of these cakes. Now, when you bite into it, just as I demonstrated while you were talking at the beginning of your discussion right there, I could taste the drugs inside of this cake, Sick. I could taste the addiction within the cream filling of this cake right here, to where they not only just with that cake right there, but they made an ice cream out of it. They made an ice cream out of it. A 1-pint Christmas tree cake ice cream. Look at that little just smile up there. Look, she is up to no good on there. Look at that. Look at that smile on there, Sick. She knows that she got you. Got him is what's in her mind right now.
Acknowledge me.
Look at that little smile right there. She's up to no good.
D. Willie in the evening. Thursdays at 11:15 p.m. Eastern, 10:15 p.m. Central. Exclusively on Sertoba Media, where the struggle is real to be awesome.
Hey, ladies and gentlemen. Hey, look. Hey, stop playing games. Y'all already know. Go ahead and toss him some Willie Bucks. Ain't nobody playing around. Hey, $sign D Willie 87. Go ahead, hit him up on the Cash App, and go ahead and give him some Willie Bucks. Look at Drew looking stoic, ladies and gentlemen. Stoic on that $10 bill. So go ahead, slide my man over some Willie Bucks, and we good. That's all I'm saying. We good. Around some Willie Bucks.
Sertoba Media, where the struggle is real to be awesome.
If you're looking for a sports program that gives you the flavor.
Washington Commanders? Really?
This whole thing stinks to high heaven.
That pulls no punches.
Thuggish act by a thuggish actor.
That gives you some humor.
Praise everything LeBron does and never criticize it.
If you want a show that gives you good times, then this is that show. BS3 Network proudly presents.
I am Cole Johnson, and welcome to
Cole Sports with a Z. Every Friday on Patreon, and every Saturday on YouTube, Spreaker, and all other outlets.
Welcome back to Total Football Talk. And before we go into that next segment, I've got this. some of those commercials that you saw during the commercial break are a little outdated. This week, I'm going to be updating them to help out myself and my man Cole Johnson, and that is your welcome back, even though some of you were probably seeing that and saying, "Damn!" Shout out to Cool McCain, who gave me the inspiration to add the Testify and the Ron Simmons transitions. And even though he didn't have it during that episode, we were talking a little bit of wrestling, it somewhat inspired me to grab this.
Surprise, motherfucker.
As everything I just said over the past minute was probably a surprise. Welcome back to Total Football Talk, as we now have gone through the majority of the in-depth part of our show. We do have a couple more things to cover in this last finality of it. And with that being said, let's go ahead and take it into the chopping block. First up on the chopping block here, vehicle registered or leased to Kansas City Chiefs wide receiver Rashee Rice involved in a 6-car crash this past Saturday. How long of a suspension should we expect to see from this incident? Because keep in mind, guys, this is not like the last topic that we talked about with spitting on a player. I mean, this is definitely endangering the lives of people, injured 4 people in this 6-car crash. Regardless of if he was driving or not, which we still got more information we got to find out based on the little bit he's given us through his attorney through that statement yesterday. We'll start this one off with you, Cool. What are your thoughts here when it comes to this right here? Do you think he's going to serve a suspension? And if so, for how long?
It's kind of hard, right? But I think they're going to do something, right? The NFL is very proactive. If they can find any link whatsoever, they're going to do something. Definitely have to wait to get all the information, see everything. But I feel like we're going to see some sort of suspension, at least a fine and, a couple of games. If, if he was at the scene, whether he was driving or not, because one of the things that I found interesting was everybody left, right? You got in an accident and you just bailed. So I think that alone, if you're there, it's going to get you into some trouble with the league, because why didn't you stay, right? And then
hit and run.
We'll just see how things, we'll see how things go from there, all the information. But if he was there at the scene, even if he wasn't driving, I think he's going to get a fine in a couple of games.
Yeah, because regardless if alcohol was involved or not, I still look back on the Henry Ruggs situation about that wasn't that long ago. That was involving a vehicle, regardless if you were intoxicated or not, street racing. The images that we saw from that incident this past weekend, it just tells me it's like, especially with the Henry Ruggs situation, these guys need to be learning this. And when you're renting or leasing, or you've purchased a Corvette, this thing's got some get up and go to it, especially the type of one that he had in that footage right there. So definitely solid take with that. What do you think there, Rob, when it comes to this? Does he serve suspension? And if so, is it for a decent amount of time considering everything we just said?
I kind of want to hold off judgment and hold off because we don't really know the legal process. I have to see everything plays out. But my biggest thing is just be careful with vehicles. Be careful who you lease them to. Now, if you have somebody that you know who you're going to let borrow the vehicle, make sure that you know what you're doing. If you're riding with somebody, be careful with what you're doing. I just want to see how things play out. But because he does play with Kansas City, and because, Andy Reid's son had this issue as well at one time. I think a young lady got injured, very substantially. So, this is something that the NFL may do something with. But I mean, hey, they did let Leonard Little come back and play after, But that was a different era. But we'll see how things go. I want to see how things play out. And sometimes, even though the police are seeking you, doesn't mean that you're actually under arrest. I mean, has he been arrested yet, or has he been? I didn't check. Did he?
From what I've seen, it's basically he's just been giving statements through his lawyer, and saying like, he's not admitting or not admitting, whether he was driving or not. At some point, that's going to come out.
So right now he's being smart, and by him he doesn't have a lot of money, but he has some decent money because he played 1 year in the NFL. So I mean, he has some decent money in his repertoire. Plus, you take out loans and all that different type of stuff, yada yada, because he has money and he has some power right now. So yeah, I would just let my attorney speak. I would try to, if you look back at the Georgia defensive lineman from a few years ago, he dropped in the draft because everybody was assuming that he was driving, but it wasn't. He just left the scene, stuff like that. So we'll have to see how things play out. And right now, he is smart to talk to his lawyer. Don't talk to the media. Don't put anything on social media. Talk to your lawyer, because play the same game the justice system plays. Whether he's right or wrong, let the law play out, and whatever the law decides, that's what the law decides. I don't know if he should be suspended because I don't have all the details. I don't know what happened. So let your attorney speak. Let your attorneys make something happen. They cut you a deal. Hey.
My answer is a two-parter. If he is determined to not be the driver, but just the person who leased it or rented it, or owns it or whatnot, I think he's going to receive more punishment through the courts, basically, with maybe fines or whatever, than he would through the NFL, because he was the one who, if you're leasing it, more than likely that contract usually says that only you can be the one that's the driver.
Exactly.
If you go through Enterprise or hurt somebody else, if you're renting a car out, if it's like that, but probably on a larger scale, right? So I think through potentially through the law, he could deal with something there, but the NFL is not going to really punish him through that if he wasn't the driver, right? If that's proven. If it's deemed that he was the driver of this vehicle, I can easily see him having a 2-game suspension. I don't think he's going to go 4 or more, because it's not like it was PEDs or he was cheating or anything. This was during the off season in the spring. I could easily see that. And the only reason why I say the 2 games, if any suspension there, because you were endangering the life of others when you caused a 6-car crash, and you have to be held accountable, because when you're holding people like Henry Ruggs accountable, which even though is different because you killed somebody in that, you're still recklessly driving. And that lesson right there should have taught a lesson to everybody else in some type of video that you should be playing to all these rookies, saying Henry Ruggs was young, was very highly touted as a draft pick, had a bright future, but one night screwed it all up for him and his career and his life. And you could have done that yourself, regardless if you're driving or not, because even if you leased it or you owned it, your name's still on that car. Somebody else is out there representing you when they're driving, and your license plate on the back of the car has your name on it when they run it through the system. So that's the only thing I wanted to say with it. I get why you were careful with what you said, Rob, and you cool, and the answers that you gave about it. And we can agree to disagree on certain things, and especially respectfully disagree on certain things about it. I just feel like whether you're guilty or you're not by driving, at some way, somehow, he's going to pay for this, whether it's financially because of what happened, or you're going to serve some time as far as a suspension in the NFL, not jail time. But one way or another, in the coming months before we get to training camp, there's going to be a little bit more clarity on what happened and what didn't happen during this past weekend's incident with that one. So,
Hey, who's giving them the business?
Now moving on to the UFL again, and saying that outside of the Stallions, no UFL team had over 300 yards in week 1. Will viewership drop over the coming weeks if this remains the narrative? Start this one off with you, Rob. What do you think about this when it comes to viewership? If we can have lackluster performances with less than 300 yards in total offense for a team for 7 out of the 8 teams, right? Like we did in week 1. If this continues to be this way, even though viewership was kind of lackluster anyway, do you think this is going to potentially affect it?
I don't know. I don't think it really has anything to do with the offense too much, because the XFL was a really good defensive league, and they had some good offensive performances as well. But I just don't think that it's going to take people to get used to the UFL. I don't think they did enough last year to ingratiate themselves. I think that they should have gone a few more years with the XFL and then maybe merged it. You only have 8 teams. There are some teams that are no longer involved in the league that may upset some people because they may no longer. Yeah, Philadelphia Soul, the Philadelphia, for example, a really good team that I enjoyed last year. I just think
people are sour over the Guardians too. the Orlando team.
Yeah, the Orlando Guardians. I think that they were on their way up because Orlando really has a really good fan base when it comes to not only basketball but also soccer, and a lot of those fans love. A lot of fans been clamoring for a football team in the area for a long time. I think that they did a smart thing by not getting rid of St. Louis. If they got rid of St. Louis, this league would already been dead. Give it a few weeks. I don't think viewership next week will be great, but I think by week 3, and especially when we get DC at home, I think that's when the viewership will go up.
Okay, what do you think about
with the beer snake?
Yes.
Well, you gotta remember too, and Rob alluded to this point. You're right now putting them up against March Madness. We got the whole WrestleMania thing. They got programming all week, so you're putting it up against things that are more popular. So you're not really. I mean, I understand you got to do what you got to do. You got to get your season in where you can get it in, where you can get your contracts, where you can get stadiums that you can play in, and all those things. So I get it, but these first 2 weeks, probably every year, are not going to be that strong, right? That's just what it's going to be unless they're able to find a way to shift it a couple of weeks ahead. So I wouldn't be too concerned with the amount of yards necessarily, but I think play style, the big plays, offense and defense, those type of things, that's what people look for more, right? One of the reasons why the NFL has gotten to the point where it's, you can't touch people on defense, you can't breathe on a guy if you're playing defense almost. And of course, I'm exaggerating a little bit, but you guys get the point. The reason that they're doing it is to drive up scoring. So not necessarily yards as much, but scoring, right? Because scoring sells. It's sexy. Sex sells. That's the sexiness in sports. So I think that's where some improvement will happen. But I think as we get further along, a couple of weeks down the line, some of the other things fall off and you have more people saying, okay, I'll give this UFL thing a try. I think you'll see more viewership, maybe not what they anticipate, because again, you took basically everything to make the XFL, and you stripped it out for the most part, and you became basically like a little bit less corporate version of the USFL. So
true.
We'll see how people like that.
Very solid takes, guys. I definitely agree with that as well.
Who's giving them the business?
And for our last topic in the chopping block, the UFL Week 1 suffers from mediocre attendance. Is this a result of Easter weekend or due to the fact that the league began marketing this season back in January? Start this one with you, Cool. What do you think when it comes to the viewership this past weekend? Was it based on Easter weekend or the fact they've only been marketing for like 2.5 months?
Well, my big thing is based on the fact that, again, you started when people are not going to care about you for a couple of weeks.
March Madness.
We won't get the true stats until we get about 2 weeks out. So until after like week 2, like once you get to week 3 and beyond, that's when we'll start to see like who's going to really be watching this, right? Easter weekend is probably not a good start time either way, but with March Madness, NBA getting to the end of the season, all the other things happening anyway, it's just not going to be high viewership. And if you came out thinking you were going to get high viewership, I mean, that's a serious problem with people who are making decisions, because you should know better than that. This is not the time of year right in this sweet spot where you're going to get viewership. Like other things are sucking away from each other. Started Major League Baseball, right? All these things sucking viewers away from each other. And then here comes something else that's new, smack dab in the middle of that, and you think a lot of people are going to watch. Come on, guys.
I mean, this is why you start the season. This is why you start the season 2 weeks after the Super Bowl. You start promoting in October. Hey guys, 2 weeks after Super Bowl, or even a week after Super Bowl. Hey guys, football is over, but guess what? We got this product, and we're going to bring it to you. The football is going to continue, and then you run it in February. Maybe you say, hey, we'll start it in maybe even March 1st. Hey guys, we'll start March 1st. Maybe a couple weeks outside of the Super Bowl, and we'll go for about 2 months. And then as March Madness comes, because I can argue even I think they were playing last year during March Madness. I can even argue last year that we were really entrenched in the XFL. And I mean, the USFL was okay, but I just, like, again, as Cool was saying, the USFL brand is very corporate. The XFL brand is very cool, college type, beer snake, all that different type of stuff. I just think that I don't know. I don't think it's Easter weekend. I don't think it's the marketing. I think people know about the product. You just got to put it at a better time. It just needs to. You just need to put it at a better time when it's not being affected by other brands. And let's be honest about this. As I said before, baseball is as hot as it's been since probably 2002, early 2000s, because there's so many stories in baseball right now. So the Yankees are 5-0. So when the Yankees are good, there's gonna be more attention on the brand.
Facts. Like I like what you guys are saying, but I am going to disagree slightly on the fact I don't think it was Easter, but I do think the only promoting it for 2.5 months, it hurt them a little bit, because like Cool was saying, even if you started it earlier, if you would have promoted it back in October, that still gives you a little bit more time, a little bit more of the edge on marketing to get the news out on when your season's starting. I don't think they wanted to start it later, because the later you start it, the closer you get to overlapping with the CFL schedule, because the CFL starts the first week of June. So with all that being said, I do agree with you guys saying probably started a little bit earlier, like with what you were saying, Rob, maybe a couple weeks after the Super Bowl to still keep football fresh. I don't think it was the Easter weekend that affected the numbers at all, because diehard football fanatics are going to watch it, regardless, or go to the games, unless they're like, the NFL players right now who just want to take a complete break from the game altogether. But marketing it for 2 months, 2.5 months, and like you guys said, maybe rushing the merger between the USFL and the XFL, all that kind of hurt itself. And they were kind of limited on certain things they couldn't do, because even Dwayne was trying to figure out what he was going to do within the WWE and all that stuff. I think the UFL may have, whether they want to admit it or not, taken a slight of a backseat for a little bit, because he had to figure out the TKO board stuff over there with how he was going to be a part of that. The creative between his character, and if they were going to bring that back and utilize this WrestleMania appearance like this been talked about for the past 2 years between him and the Bloodline. And now getting back to football, I think with trying to figure all that out, they kind of put this on the back burner a little bit, even though they have other heads in the game to figure this stuff out. And Danny Garcia's probably given the final stamp of approval and stuff. She's probably still going to him for different things and getting certain ideas before everything's set in stone. So there might have been a delay based on that. I'm just being a little bit skeptical on that, thinking about that, because between Hollywood and then wrestling and football and all this stuff, the man has a lot on his plate. So it could have been pushed back a little bit. I might be giving a little bit too much credit where it's not due. Who knows? But that's just my opinion when it comes to the scheduling and the viewership based on it. But I also agree with what Cool was saying. We need to give it a couple more weeks once March Madness is over, once WrestleMania is over, and there's, besides baseball, the only really thing you really have to look at is UFL at the time. I think that's when we're going to get a little bit more of a clear understanding of what these ratings really are when it comes to the viewership. So with that being said, let's go ahead and take this into my favorite part of the show, and that's the Snowflake of the Week.
Total football talk.
That's right. Your favorite time is now when it comes to the Snowflake of the Week, as we get to lay down the fire and the action here when it comes to our pick for the Snowflake of the Week. And Rob, when you think about everything that transitioned in this past week, with the 4 games that we saw take place, was there a particular person, a player, a coach, or an entirety of a team, or just the offense or defense of a team that you are looking at here and saying they played like an absolute snowflake? Who is your pick for the Snowflake of the Week?
This has to be from the UFL?
Yes, within football.
Trying to think. I'd probably say if I'm going back on the teams, I would probably say let me go back to my notes here and make sure, because I got a lot of different notes here. If I had to have my Snowflake of the Week, I guess you would say probably I'd probably say more than likely the Houston Rednecks, because the time of possession and everything. I really can't think of a player outside the gentleman who spit on the player. Probably the Houston Rednecks, because just the way they played against the Memphis Showboats, 40 minutes possession time and only scoring 18 points. The offense has got to be better. So the Houston Rednecks and their offense got to be a lot better than that. The coaching staff got to be better. The Houston Rednecks overall. That's who I give it to.
So Rob is going with the Houston Roughnecks here.
Roughnecks. Yeah.
It's all good. It's all good. The new team name and all that stuff, trying to get used to it. When it comes to this, Cool, do you agree with him with the Houston team, or do you have a player or a coach in mind besides the whole team?
So I'm going to go with the kickoff as the snowflake. The fact that the UFL decided to not do the XFL kickoff and go with the regular kickoff, I think that's trash. I think you had something that was a little bit more exciting, that, as we talked about when we talked about it earlier with the XFL kickoff and how the NFL is going to be using that, because it gives you more of an opportunity to get big plays, to make things happen, and do the one thing that's sexy in all of sports, which is score points or get closer to scoring points. So the UFL and their corporation mentality, moving away from that, it's a little disappointing for me. And I'm going to call that the snowflake of not only the week, but the season.
Okay. So we got the Houston Roughnecks. We've got the UFL kickoff. Between my pick, and it might be more of a homer pick here from what people would say, I'm going to go with Jordan Ta'amu from the DC Defenders. And yeah, we can say that the lack of the running game here and, the things that were going on for the changes with the merger, that affected his game, right? But you played and threw 25 passes, out of 45 passes, you completed 25 of them, right? And you had 235 passing yards, which was, out of all the people in the UFL, you had the higher amount of passing yards in this past weekend, which congratulations. But still 25 of 45, you had a completion percentage of 55.6. You didn't throw the ball in the end zone. Your kicker got you 4 field goals, which is the only reason why you had 12 points. And that's a really big slap in the face as a quarterback when your kicker's outplaying you to an extent and providing the only points on the board for your team. Your QBR for the game was 60.9. So when you think about the success of what Jordan Ta'amu had in this past season, 9-1 record, getting to the XFL championship, although you did have a good running game behind you that sets you up for plays that you would have converted this past weekend had you had the running game. But again, when you have the type of play out of your running backs getting, 13 carries for 44 yards or whatnot in the game, I mean, that's absolutely not going to help your case. So overall, even though you didn't have much help around you, based on your production last year and the fact that you were able to throw 235 yards on 25 attempts, I'm giving you the snowflake of the week here. You should have played better from somebody who was playing in the XFL championship last year, especially Luis Perez, because Luis Perez was a similar situation that could have been the 2A for snowflake of the week. But unless you got any other thoughts there, Rob, I
don't know what else you want from the guy. I mean, got you to a championship game last year, was one of the most exciting teams in the league. Injuries, players who went on to play at the next level. I mean, to throw 235 yards with that team, that drastically different, is an accomplishment. It could do a lot better at the quarterback position, because there are some guys who didn't pass for 200 yards this past weekend. DC lost a lot of players. They got a lot of injuries. I mean, there's only so much you can do. There's only so much you can do. But for Houston has real tradition in this thing. And for them to come out and play the way they played and to lose the way they lost, it's not good. You can't give up 4 minutes possession and only score 12 points.
Yeah, I just think about between that and, his only really production he had was with Ty Scott, 4 receptions, 87 yards. Outside of that, the man would have only thrown for 153 yards if that was the case, if he didn't have Ty Scott this past weekend.
That's right. He don't have anybody. This is not the same team. And that's what I'm saying. This is the problem with this league. you're not going to have consistently great teams every year unless you're Birmingham. Now, we'll see how Birmingham goes year by year. And if Birmingham can do it, then other teams should be able to do it. But Birmingham is just a different breed of team.
Yep, Birmingham, definitely. And that's why they've had the hype coming in to this. Do you have anything to add to this, Cool? Or are you good with your snowflake pick of the week, or do you have any type of rebuttal here?
Oh, I'm good. I mean, Rob makes some good points.
He did. I mean, I'm still not standing down. I think he could have done better. But when it comes to that, Jordan Ta'amu is my pick. You got the Houston Roughnecks for Rob Johnson's pick, and the actual kickoff formation from Cool McCain. Definitely great picks here for the snowflake of the week. We got one last segment to go to, but one last commercial break before we get to that, and we'll see you here for the 2-minute drill on the other side.
The 2-minute drill is next. This is Total Football Talk. Hey, Eagles fan. Join my man Cool McCain and a host of others as they break down every single game, every single week in an objective manner, and also from a fan's perspective as well. Remember, this cast feels just like you. Nobody likes you. And you don't care. Fly, Eagles, fly. Eagles Elite Podcast. Every Wednesday at 8:30 p.m. Eastern on YouTube and other podcast outlets. Oh, yes. The tradition, the pageantry, the spectacle, the history, the slut. Wait. I gotta rep my brother's stuff right. All my DMV soldiers, stand up! And welcome to the Commander's Gridiron Report. You want your commanders to be repped right? Well, D. Willie is your man. Commander's Gridiron Report. Every Monday at 3:05 p.m. Eastern, 2:05 p.m. Central. Exclusively on the Sertoba Media YouTube channel. Music by J. Cool. Join the transporter to Hades.
Your butt and gut becomes one.
Join the reformer of hooker whores.
This is my daughter, Placenta Booty Johnson.
Join the bronze god.
Whenever you are in distress, take off your baseball cap and throw it in the air.
Join your very own superhero of broadcasting, Chris Bass.
So whatever color of crayon they get, they palm it and do 2 circles, and that translates to, I can be the black people.
As she takes you through the week's paces in Baseline. Live every Saturday at 8 a.m. Eastern, 7 a.m. Central, Pacific Time Zone people, just stay asleep when this is on live and just catch the recording. Oh, I'm sorry. Exclusively on the Chris Bass YouTube channel.
Welcome back to Total Football Talk, your source for hard-hitting gridiron action. And we have one final segment left, and that is the 2-minute drill. And a little bit shorter of a 2-minute drill than what we are normally used to seeing here, but we've got 4 games to cover for this upcoming weekend. First, starting off this Saturday at 12 o'clock p.m. Eastern, noontime, San Antonio Brahmas 1-0 travel to Memphis to take on the Showboats, who are also 1-0. When it comes to this matchup right here, Cool McCain, who do you think is going to be undefeated after this matchup?
I'm going to go Memphis. I'm going to go Memphis with the win.
You think Wade Phillips' bubble gets bursted after one win this season, huh?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
He'll learn from it. He'll be stronger.
Okay. Rob Johnson, do you agree with what Cool is saying, that he'll be a little bit stronger after a loss? or will he be a little bit stronger after a win and get to 2-0 against this Memphis Showboats team?
Well, I mean, you have to be honest and you have to be happy with what you saw from the San Antonio Brahmas offense. Memphis held the ball for a long time, only 18 points. So from that, I have to give it to San Antonio, but it wouldn't shock me if Memphis won. They're at home.
Very solid take. And in a lot of that, I was going to say too, which is why I'm going to take San Antonio getting to 2-0. I like Memphis's chances here. I think it's going to be closer of a game than this past weekend when the Defenders played the Brahmas. But if it was not for the leg of the kicker, the Battlehawks would have won that game. So it was close enough. And for that, I'm going to stick with, Wade Phillips' leadership and the fact that they've got some players on that team that can make a difference. I'm going to stick with the Brahmas as well.
Who's giving them the business?
Now, moving on to the Saturday game that's following that, but the one that we argued earlier in the show is kind of competing with WrestleMania, which is kind of a dumb move to have it at 8 o'clock at night when 2-0-1 teams battle, and that is the Arlington Renegades, who were in the XFL Championship last year, travel to St. Louis to take on the Battlehawks at 8 o'clock p.m. Eastern time on ABC. Rob, how do you feel about this game here? Do you think that the Arlington Renegades will go 0-2 after this, or the Battlehawks?
This game needs to end in a tie. This game needs to end in a tie. It needs to. In fact, I hope it gets canceled. Why would you put your brand up against WrestleMania, and not only that, but the NCAA tournament?
Yeah.
Like, I'm going to call this a push. But you know what? If it doesn't get canceled, it doesn't tie up, I'll say this. St. Louis does not lose at home. They're a very good home team. AJ McCarron will get back, and he will come back and play a better game. I will give it to the Battlehawks. The Arlington Renegades came on late last year. I don't think they recaptured the magic until later on this season. I give it to St. Louis Battlehawks, especially after the loss they had on the road last week in Detroit.
Okay. What do you think? Cool. Do you agree with them? Do you think Battlehawks get the dub here and go 1-1?
Absolutely. I absolutely agree with his assessment. I'd also add just quickly that the Battlehawks, they have to be a little ticked off about how they lost that game. So the next person is going to get their wig split.
Facts. And when you see anybody looking at the live lineup on their TV this weekend, and when they scroll past this, they're going to be saying this.
Ain't nobody care. Who cares? Ain't nobody care.
Because this game is going to be put on the back burner. You're either going to be watching March Madness, you're going to be watching, Final Four at that point, or you're going to be watching WrestleMania. Or if you're like me, who has 3 TVs in the garage, you're going to have all 3 on. So, I'm going to have it all on because I got to keep up with all of it. But at the same time, especially with us having Total Football Talk, at least this game and WrestleMania will be on. And then, of course, the third TV. We've already been down that. But my choice is going to be the Battlehawks as well, because based on what we saw from the Renegades this past weekend, they looked like that 4-6 team that we saw throughout the year last year that was kind of lackluster. It wasn't really performing at the level that we thought they would and surprising us to get the XFL championship game. So with that being said, I'm going to go with the Battlehawks here as they need to rebound from this past weekend's loss.
Who's giving them the business?
Now, in our next game that we have here, Birmingham on Sunday, travels to Michigan, Ford Field on Sunday at 12 o'clock p.m. Eastern time on ESPN to take on, again, the Michigan Panthers. When it comes to this right here, what are your thoughts on this one, Rob? Do you think that Birmingham, leaves this game 2-0, or does Michigan upset the Stallions here and is undefeated after this game?
Well, this is one of the more important games. Well, I think this is the 2 Sunday games the most important. First of all, if you're Birmingham, you continue to try to set the standard to why you're the best team in the league. But if you're Michigan, you can make headways. If you can get the win here at Ford Field, if you can try to, and it's on a Sunday, so people are used to football on a Sunday. It's going to be at 12 o'clock Central Time, so it'd be at 12 o'clock here on the East Coast, 11 o'clock on Central Time, and it'd be 9 o'clock in the morning on the West Coast, which that's what they're used to watching football around that time anyway. So I think it's an important game. I think that Birmingham will win, but I think Michigan makes a statement.
Okay. I like that. Solid take. What do you think, Cool? Do you agree with him here? Do you think we see the Birmingham Stallions get the victory here, or the Panthers are going to upset?
Well, I mean, I just attested to y'all a few minutes ago that I feel like Birmingham was head and shoulders above everyone else. So then how could I come and pick against them, right? Like, so I believe Birmingham is going to win this game. I do agree that Michigan can make a statement. I will say this. I will be rewatching this game because at noon, I will be watching NXT Stand and Deliver on Sunday. So I will already be in wrestling mode.
I don't blame you whatsoever there. And
but like I said, and Stand Deliver is going to be good. But I think that this game could change the trajectory of the league. So I'll probably have to go back and watch NXT. Yeah. So I have to go back and watch NXT. I'm going to go back and watch NXT probably Monday, because even though I'm a big fan of Trick Williams and all this stuff, I think that this game has the ability to be the game of the week, maybe even a game of the month. I think this game is gonna do some good things.
I may cheat and watch both.
If Kai Nakua shows up like he did in this past week and has, double-digit tackles, a sack, and making the impact that he made in this past game, because the impact he made, we would not have seen the Michigan Panthers at 1-0 at this point. He definitely played a big part in that. So if he steps up to the level that he did in this past week, it's going to be a close game. But again, like you guys said, I'm going to have to agree with this and say the Birmingham Stallions take the victory here. And I definitely think it's going to be less than 7 points, because it's going to be less than a 7-point game. I see it as the final score for this one right here.
Hey. Who's giving them the business?
And our final game here on the 2-minute warning, 2-minute drill or whatnot that we have here is the Houston Roughnecks at 0-1 take on the DC Defenders, who are 0-1. This upcoming Sunday is at 4 p.m. Had a typo there. 4 p.m. Eastern time on ESPN. When it comes to this right here, Rob, what are your thoughts? Do you think that we see the DC Defenders in the Beer Snake come back and they get the win at home?
If the college atmosphere returns, yes. If it doesn't, Houston wins by at least 2 touchdowns.
Oh, all right. What do you think, Cool?
I'm going to assume that the college atmosphere is going to be there for them. So I'm going to go with them winning. But as Rob said, without that extra motivation, without that, that real home field advantage, I can see Houston giving them that work.
At this point, as much as I want to be wrong here, and I hope I am wrong by the time this game gets here, I'm going to disagree a little bit and say, based on with what you guys were saying earlier with Final Four, we got WrestleMania, even got the women's Final Four around this time too. I'm going to say that this right here is going to be a game that's won by the other team, by the traveling team, by the Houston Roughnecks, and agree with part of what Rob was saying. I don't think that the college atmosphere is going to show up because, one, in D.C., you're closer to Philly, so some of them may be making the trip to go to WrestleMania if they can afford it, for one. Two, there's also other events going on during the weekend outside of there. Like, you got some indie stuff going on there, too, which I still have tickets to on Friday. I may be taking a day trip to go do that. I haven't made up my mind yet. I might refund them. We get into that later. But another thing too, this DC Defender team is not the same. And I'm just, based on what I saw from this past week, my hype has definitely been deflated on this team now, being a little bit more realistic on it. And regardless of if they get the home crowd or not, you still have to have a running game. You have a good chance of squeaking by this Roughnecks team because of the way their defense played this last week as well. But weighing the checks and balances, I just think that the Roughnecks offense has a better chance of doing more damage than the DC Defenders offense, regardless if Jordan Ta'amu can throw for 235 yards or not.
Hey. Who's giving them the business?
See.
No. We definitely will see. It's going to be interesting to see this game unfold, but we got a lot going on around this game too. So some people are going to be watching one thing, some people are going to be watching another. And with that being said, we have the post game to get to give our final thoughts.
Total football talk.
As long as it's one.
I went to go buy one yesterday, but I wasn't able to put the 18 on my leg.
Oh, that's great.
So,
I love it.
actually, I was getting tears.
I hope it actually is recording. Listening to it.
And here in the post game, when it comes to everything we've talked about in this show, the UFL, even some NFL news, putting it all together, whether you think that you might have left something out that you want to get off your chest before we get on out of here. When it comes to your closing thoughts, Cole McCain, what are the last pieces of information you want to drop on our people here before you roll on out?
I just really want to say I'm disappointed in this merger because I don't feel like it was a merger. I feel like it was more of UFL making a couple of acquiescence in absorbing the XFL. I feel like a lot of what was exciting to me about the XFL is no longer there. I feel like that's going to be an obstacle that they're going to have to find a way to overcome, right? Because a true merger, we would have more of what made the XFL included. I don't feel like that's there. I do, this show, I'm going to watch football if it's there, but I'm more disappointed so far in just like what's happened. Right. It's not a true merger. It's not a blending of things. It's more one league's kind of dominating what's happening, in my opinion. And hopefully it'll change. Maybe once the Rockets through being the final boss, you can get over there and kind of shake some things up. We'll see how that all works out. But, it's football. It's there. It's not horrible. And, hopefully it'll grow.
No, I concur with your thoughts wholeheartedly on that. Great take there, Cool. When it comes to the closing thoughts, Rob, what else do you have to add based on what Cool just said, or any other thoughts you have around the game of football in this current moment?
Just with the UFL, USFL, the United Football League. I said USFL, the United Football League. They just gotta keep playing. They got a good brand. They know who they have. They know that these teams can get things going. You're gonna have to add some teams in the future. You're definitely gonna have to get another Pennsylvania team in there, whether it be Philadelphia, whether it be Pittsburgh. You're gonna have to get. You're definitely gonna have to get a California team in there, in my opinion. You're gonna have to get a New York team. I just think that the merger happened too quickly, but I think this league is good enough where it will be able to start thriving once again. Just, get the names out there. You remember you came back with PJ Walker before the pandemic. Last year, you had a really good brand going with the beer snake. I mean, there were times that I couldn't wait. Look, there were times last year where people were more excited about the XFL than they were about the NCAA tournament as a whole. Let's be honest. So let's just hope that after – but then you got baseball. Baseball, once again, is very hot right now. So let's just hope after NCAA tournament that things can start to get going. I know that I pay attention this weekend, but I'm going to start paying even closer attention. And I'm going to start talking about different players and different guys who I think that can make an impact at the next level very soon.
That's a solid take there as well. And I'm gonna piggyback on part of that and say that, with the UFL and the things, as far as having 3 teams in Texas, I think that's a bit much. They need to get rid of one of them, probably the Arlington Renegades team. And then, of course, that gives you the door to bring back the team to either Philadelphia or Pittsburgh, because the Soul, I felt like, deserved to be part of this merger right here. But, that's neither here nor there at this time. But both of you have very solid takes when it comes to the UFL and the things you brought here in the closing thoughts and throughout the entirety of the show. And thank you again for your time, for one, and for the great things that you've brought, to the table today. I want to save my rant, though, for something that's NFL related and go back to a team that I know pretty well and bring this rant to them, because what they did recently was absolutely.
Now, that is absurd.
And what is absurd about what they did is they brought in recently a quarterback this past week, but also not too far along before that, they brought in another one in Marcus Mariota, and now you bring in Jeff Driscoll. And apparently for the Commanders, this is their move for whatever quarterback they draft in the first round with that second overall pick. These are going to be the quarterbacks to show that young quarterback the way. Well, I'm sorry, but if you have these 2 quarterbacks here on your roster showing your younger talent the way, you're basically going to show them the quickest way to get them to second or third string, because that's what they are relegated to at this point. Even if Marcus Mariota is the day one starter, okay, for the Commanders, at some point throughout this season, because throughout most of his career, that's usually what happens. He gets through a third, 2/3 maybe of the season, and then the team's crowd is clamoring to see the backup. And we've seen it in Tennessee, we've seen it in Atlanta, and now we're going to see it again in Washington. And Jeff Driscoll is not going to be your safe option at QB2. I'm sorry. I don't see him making it outside of the preseason. I think that this was just to fill up some gap on the depth chart. For those people who are out there talking all this stuff about how Jeff Driscoll was signed to help develop the quarterback, I don't know what you are smoking, but it's obviously not the ganja. And when it comes to certain things that were said over this past weekend from the signing of Jeff Driscoll, it took me for
surprise, motherfucker.
A total surprise. I mean, it was absolutely to the point to where Cole Johnson, if you were here today, you'd be pressing this.
We gotta pause that.
And then I would follow it up with this.
You can't handle the truth.
And you know, when it comes to me clicking that button,
You like that? You like that?
you absolutely do. Because when you look for a place at the very end of a show, no matter what show it is, and my final take, when it comes to shenanigans.
You got the right one, baby.
Absolutely. Because even cool McCain will tell me.
Oh, my brother, testify.
Facts. What are your thoughts there, Rob?
Well, Jeff Driscoll career has 16 touchdowns and 10 interceptions. It's not that bad of a quarterback if you give him some weapons. And the Commanders actually have some weapons. And last year when Jacoby Brissett came in the game, they had success. All of a sudden. Just saying.
You think Jeff Driscoll can have better success than Jacoby Brissett?
No. You're not.
Okay, good.
You have to listen to what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that last year when Jacoby Brissett came in the game, the offense actually kind of looked really good in some senses. But they weren't going to play him because they have a plan. Now, in my opinion, in my draft, I don't have Washington taking the quarterback at number 2. I have them taking the offensive lineman from Penn State. They don't need to take it. I don't, unless it's Caleb Williams or if they're going to go Michael Penix or maybe even Bo Nix later on, I don't really trust a lot of these quarterbacks. A lot of these guys, developmental guys, you have to worry about Jay Daniels with his size. You got to worry about Drake May. Drake May is going to be the type of guy where he's got to sit for a couple of years like Jordan Love. I think Washington's playing for the quarterback in 2025. Shedeur Sanders and Quinn Ewers will, in my opinion, do very well in this league. And there are other guys like the Cam Wards of the world, etc. Washington needs to build this team up. Drafting Drake May at number 2 is not going to guarantee nothing. They need to go build an offensive lineman, get Olu from Penn State, trade back in the first round, maybe get a really dominant defensive player. Do not go by the pressures of what the fans want you to do. And like I said, do I think Jeff Driscoll is an all-world player? No. But in 2018, he had 6 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. He threw for 1,003 yards. He's never had more interceptions than touchdowns. He comes from the University of Florida. He's a decent quarterback. Marcus Mariota was the number 1 overall pick in the NFL draft, number 2 overall pick. He played at Tennessee, and we all know Tennessee is where quarterbacks and receivers go to die, essentially. So I'm not saying he's going to be great, but what I'm saying is that if Washington can build this team, and let's say Washington is competitive, even if they win only a few games this year, this team is building for a better future. This team, if they continue, they have the right pieces in place. They have the right coaches. Like you have some decent coaches outside of the head coach and the offensive coordinator. You've got some decent pieces, and you have the right GM, I believe. So I feel like let this be a building process. Let this team do some small things. And here's the thing, guys. Terry McLaurin, I love him. He's 28 years old. He's about to be 29. I'm not saying you pick Marvin Harrison Jr. with the 2nd overall pick, but what I'm saying is that if you want to build that more dynamic team, if you give Jeff Driscoll, a Terry McLaurin, a Marvin Harrison Jr., and these other weapons, I mean, I think it could be better than what people think. But that's not what they're going to do. They're probably going to pick the quarterback. But I'm just saying, build your team. And I guarantee if you build this team the right way and don't make overzealous moves or don't make emotional moves, this team will be back in the playoffs by next year.
Yeah, and I kind of like if you were to take Marvin Harrison Jr. as well, because with McLaurin, you're not guaranteed to have him after 2024 anyway. So you need to at least give him some type of incentive of you've got a complimentary piece as another good wide receiver to help balance the load to where they each get decent targets and it can each get decent production in their games and have more fun and enjoy the game. Even though it's a business, people still want to have fun when they're at work. So if not, I don't think that there's going to be a good chance of retaining Terry McLaurin much longer if they don't make any adjustments at the wide receiver position. So definitely solid takes from both of you guys here with the final word pretty much in our closing thoughts. When it comes to where you can find Cole Johnson, you can find him here at flowcode.com/page/host Cole Johnson. And then when it comes to finding myself here, you can go to these different locations, which I need to get on that flow code. I've been saying it for several episodes, but definitely you can go to here and find me on these social media places. Cool. When it comes to where the people can find you at, those who may have seen you for the first time on Comey or Sartoba Media, you can go to Linktree/Cool McCain, as he points it out right there. And Rob Johnson. What's that?
T.ee. They've changed it. It's weird.
Oh, it's not straight up Linktree anymore. Okay.
No, it's linktr.ee.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna have to keep that in mind because I was thinking about checking that out as well. But now that you've said that, I'm glad that I know that now. What do you say there, Rob, as far as where the people can find you who are seeing you for the first time on Comey Media or again on Sartoba Media?
You find me at Rob Johnson Media on all platforms and also Legacy Maker Sports Network on all platforms as well. Make sure you follow Rob Johnson Media. I'm up to 1,500 on Instagram, and I'm close to 500 on YouTube. I really haven't been focused on YouTube here lately because I've been doing so much Instagram stuff and dealing with it. You can also catch me at nkccnews.com. And if you're in the Charleston, New Kent area, pick up a newspaper.
And if you love shorts, Rob throws some very, very entertaining shorts out there that I laugh at when he throws them out there with the Rob Johnson Entertainment on Instagram. So check that out whenever you get a chance as well. You know, I'm going to do my best to say Cole's line without butchering it and combine it with my own closing line in the show that we do every single week. In life, like a tackle, keep your head up and play hard until the whistle blows. And for my line, as always, people, please stay safe out here in these streets.